ABC News, good evening, I'm Kerry Worthington. Police have confirmed that a hiker who went missing in Victoria's West yesterday has been found safe and well. The woman was located at Hall's Gap in the Grampians at around 5 p.m. The 22-year-old set off for a hike by herself in the Grampians yesterday at about noon before calling her mother at 8 o'clock saying she was lost. Emergency services began searching the area that evening after the hiker's mother contacted them. Pressures mounting on the federal government to extend COVID support schemes despite concerns about its trillion-dollar debt. State and territory leaders along with unions argue it's a sensible response amid rising case numbers. The $750 payments were available to those forced to isolate or care for someone with COVID, but ended 2 weeks ago. Health economist at Impact Economics, Dr. Angela Jackson, says the government is in a difficult position.
We have, inflationary pressures that are clearly building in the economy, and the Reserve Bank's moving to lift interest rates, which, poses a significant economic risk. And so the government has to be really careful about every dollar that it spends.
An Australian vet who's now based in Bali says the federal government needs to do more to prevent foot and mouth disease reaching Australia. The government has announced an extra $14 million in spending to bolster Australia's defences at airports, as well as to help with vaccines and technical expertise in Indonesia. But a Bali travel ban has again been ruled out. Dr. Ross Ainsworth says the latest measures will improve Australia's defences, but says more is needed.
Bali is the big threat because there's so many tourists. But let's say there's 2 million animals that need to be vaccinated. They need 3 vaccinations, say 6 million vaccinations, and that might cost $2 or $3. So we're talking about $15+ million required just to vaccinate the animals in Bali.
US President Joe Biden will travel to Saudi Arabia today ahead of his controversial summit with the country's de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and his father, King Salman. President Biden has previously pledged to make Saudi Arabia a pariah over the 2018 murder of writer Jamal Khashoggi by Saudi agents. The prince has denied involvement, but US intelligence have concluded he approved it. The US is attempting a reset of relations to address energy concerns following a spike in oil prices driven by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A drunk and drugged driver who killed 4 children in a crash in Sydney's west has had his sentence slashed. Phoebe Bowden with more.
Samuel Davidson killed 4 children in a crash while drunk and under the influence of drugs. He was sentenced to 28 years with a non-parole period of 21 years. But today his sentence has been substantially reduced to 20 years and he could be released on parole after 15th. Layla Abdullah, the mother of 3 of the children who were killed, says hearing the news was difficult.
I was crying because it brings me back to the day I lost the kids.
Davidson could be eligible for parole from January 2035.
Fire and Rescue Victoria says the hazardous material spill on Melrose Drive ramp to the Western Ring Road is not a risk to people's health. 40 tonnes of chemical herbicide spilled after a truck crashed through a safety barrier on the ramp in the early hours of this morning. Acting Chief Fire Officer James Dullard has told ABC Radio Melbourne he expects the Altona-bound freeway exit will be closed until later tonight.
Nothing emanating or leaving the site that would impact anybody. So in terms of a hazard to people's health, that's been eliminated now and was probably not a prominent hazard even during the day.
Carlton may ask the AFL for compensation if retired player Liam Jones is recruited to another club following the league's decision to scrap its COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Jones retired in November after refusing to comply with the mandate and has since been playing in Queensland's State League in a bid to keep his AFL career alive. Players who refuse to get the vaccination can now return to the top level after the league removed its mandate. Coach Michael Voss says the club will speak to the AFL on what sort of compensation is available.
It's been, quite unique and complex. I think everyone appreciates that. We also respect Liam's position, but we've also got a position as a club we need to take, and we'll follow through as strongly as we possibly can to see what's available to us.
To the weather, there's a severe weather warning for damaging winds inland from East Gippsland to the Ballarat area and parts of the southwest coast, and a frost warning in the northeast and Gippsland. For Melbourne tomorrow, a shower or two developing, expecting a top of 13 with strong winds of up to 50 kilometres an hour. It's 11 degrees.
ABC Sport now has its very own newsletter, and we'd be pumped to have you on board.
Woohoo!
The ABC of Sport will provide a wrap of all the best stuff that's happening in sport every week.
Simply go to abc.net.au/connect
And get ready for a sport hit in your inbox every Friday.
Get on board with the ABC of Sport newsletter.
For content that makes you think.
Or allows you not to.
ABC Sport.
We begin this broadcast by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this match will be played today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening.
AFL.
Runs into the 50, stacked on the right wing, scores the level.
This is awesome. What a moment to be here.
Roll up, it's time for the show. Forget everything that you know. You ain't seen nothing like this. It's impossible to resist.
Kicks from 45, starts right, but it's coming back. It's a miracle of the Adelaide Oval.
You ain't seen nothing like.
Baker's hard up against the boundary in the right foot. Oh, that's one of the goals of the season.
That is incredible.
Buddy Franklin steps forward now. He's done it. A legend joins the Immortals.
Grandstand AFL.
Grandstand AFL.
Now from 55 goes bang. Oh, he kicked it. He has kicked it.
Welcome to the big time.
He can be a game breaker, this kid. And he'll kick the goal. It's what he does best. Silvani 2-on-1. Silvani! What a mark in the goal square.
We're gonna be kids.
Rose up from 55. An unbelievable finish. Shuts it down. The big man shots it out midair. This would be absolutely extraordinary. He is all class. Bolton runs toward the boundary to kick a miraculous goal.
He can't believe it.
Gives it everything he's got. It's going, it's going, it's there.
The superstar on the left. He's got a third. Brilliant.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL.
Bells to Vanderbilt. Sweeping hand pass to the ball. Shut the door.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
6 rounds to go in the AFL home and away season, and it feels like there isn't room for both the Western Bulldogs and St Kilda in this year's final series tonight. Their path leads through one another. The Western Bulldogs 8-8, they're in 10th spot on the table. If they lose tonight, they're 2 games out with just 5 games left, while for St Kilda, gee, how they have fallen. They were inside the top 4 just 5 weeks ago. They've lost 4 of their last 5 starts and all of a sudden are in 9th spot. But if St Kilda can win tonight, they'll find themselves in the top 8 when they go to sleep tonight. This is Grandstand AFL. Corbin Middlemass with you inside the Docklands, and I can tell you that there is no late change tonight, so the teams are in, no further changes. Ben Long is the Medi sub for St Kilda, and Luke Cleary is the sub for the Western Bulldogs. There's been COVID dramas across the competition with 8 confirmed outs, including 5 in this game alone. So Lockie Hunter, Josh Shackey and Aaron Norton, the Bulldogs spearhead, all missing in the COVID protocols tonight, while Seb Ross and Marcus Windhager are unavailable for St Kilda for the same reasons. It's been another big week in the AFL landscape, as it always is when a senior coach departs, so a fair bit to pull apart out of the North Melbourne Football Club. And the Chief Executive of the Western Bulldogs, Amit Baines, is going to join us as part of our coverage. Tim Hodges will be with us on the boundary throughout, and we've got Premiership player, Premiership coach, the game's record holder, Mick Moldhouse, to join us, 3-time Premiership player and Premiership captain Cameron Ling, and Kelly Underwood's alongside me as always. Hello, Kel.
Hi, Corbin. Great to be with you.
How was your week?
Good week. Good week. I did something this week that I've never done before in the sporting world, something that someone in this commentary box has done more than anyone else.
More than anyone else? I was going to say, have you won a premiership?
No, I did not win a premiership.
You've coached a sporting team?
I did coach a sporting team for the very first time, and I never want to do it again.
One and done.
The under-7 girls Chargers basketball team. Down 26-2 at half-time. I nearly put in a call to Mick Malthouse.
Now, your daughter...
I went home, Mick, and I had 2 glasses of red wine, and it was a school night.
That's not enough. That's not... Kel, let me tell you, it is not enough to get rid of those nerves.
I have a whole new respect for you. How on earth did you do it?
Well, I didn't have 7-year-olds for a start off. Mind you...
You had Heath Shaw.
I was going to say Dave Swan.
I was going to say, mind you, a fair few of them acted 7. I was with a few of them last night, actually. Yes. So that was half-time. So tell us, what was the end?
Well, the opposition was lovely and refused to play defence in the second half, so they finished with 6 points. It was about 40-6, but it was an interesting... I think they're going to call security for the Chargers coach next week.
And is your daughter going to play for Australia?
Oh, goodness me. She's got a long way to go, Mick.
Well, every 7-year-old has, Kel. Get over it. Look, you cannot... now, I hope you're kind to her.
Yes, I was kind to her.
Because
unlike Lingy, when he coaches his sons, he's told me what he said to his sons.
Now, I know you know my daughter Christy.
Yes,
well, she coached last night basketball.
Oh, she did. She's coaching her daughter.
No, son.
Oh, son, right.
And he said to her last night, "I wish you weren't coach, Mum."
Oh,
now, they are fighting words.
Well, she did say to me in the car on the way, "Are you going to give a pep talk, Mama?" And I said, yes. And she said, "Oh, how embarrassing."
Can you just relive some of that for us now, Kel?
What was the speech like? Good.
I'm definitely going to call you this week, Mick, for sure.
Lingy, the last time I saw you, I was sitting at home sort of watching a pulsating finish to the Gold Coast Suns Richmond game, and then there's our good friend, familiar face, 3-time premiership player Cameron Ling, just on the glitter strip on the Gold Coast watching a great finish between the Suns and the Tigers. How was it up on the Gold Coast last week?
Yeah, of all the random things I could do, Corbs, it was very, very nice. Family holiday. We squeezed one in without a Friday night game for us to do last week. And my kids wanted more footy.
Yes.
So the Suns playing the Tigers up there on the Gold Coast, we thought, let's go along, and the Suns were outstanding. They looked after my kids, and we had a terrific night, and of course got to watch an incredible game of footy.
Yeah.
That kick by Noah Anderson, he was as cool and as calm as you like, but I loved their heart. I was really impressed to see them live. They were out of that game multiple times, and they never gave up. So the signing of Stewie Dew is brilliant because he is built a strong culture. Still a building culture. It's not there. It's not a finished product, but you can see what he is doing to that group and others as well. They're on the right track.
Now, Lingy,
yes,
have the boys loosened their grip on the Geelong Football Club? After that,
is it true that they want to jump ship?
They were barracking for the Suns all night, and then when that goal went through, they were jumping up and down. I turned straight to one of the Suns people who was looking after us and said, as soon as we get back to where we're staying, I'm putting on a Cats replay of the best game I can possibly find and remind them about the blue and white. They loved the Suns after that night.
Yeah, right. Just follow the path of Gary Ablett. Just a little sort of few moments supporting the Suns and then straight back into the hoops.
Do you know who I fell in love with even more? Not that I needed much more convincing. Tuke Miller is one of the best players in the competition. They put so much time into him, Richmond, around stoppages. They could not stop him. He just hunted the footy. He was superb.
What is it about him? People like you and Mick and people that have been around footy their whole lives just love Tuke Miller. He just seems like a footballer's footballer. What is it about him?
He's smart. He's extremely professional. I was talking to one of the Suns guys and said that he does what Travis Boak does, the breath enhancement training, so that he can get the absolute most out of himself aerobically. And I was with my two boys, the 9-year-old and 7-year-old. Jed was there as well, the little one. But the 9-year-old and 7-year-old who love footy and are starting to understand it, every stoppage that got close to us, I said, watch him. Watch Miller. Do not take your eyes off him. His body work, his clever little cutting of an angle, his hunting of the footy, staying around and outnumbering, his what we call midfield stoppage craft is as elite as you see in the competition. He's special, the way he plays, and his standards do not drop. Even if the Suns have a bad one, he won me over even more, and that's hard to do considering how much I rated him anyway. He's superb in person.
Yeah, I love the one. The thing is, cool, when you ask the question, and I'll say that one of the things, Lingy's already hinted upon it, is that there are certain very, very good players that when they're tagged, they either become obsessed with the tagger, not as competitive, or try to change their game. I'll run him this time outside it instead of where I get the football. Miller, it doesn't matter if he's getting tagged or not, It's the same process. I'm going to get to the ball first. That's my job. If I have to lean in on one of their better players, I'll do so because that's also for the better for the club. But I'm going to be where the ball is because that's my job. And taggers know, they know exactly what they're going to get because he doesn't try to change his game. No. He just goes, that's my role. I'll have to beat this player. So I've loved him from, I loved him from the word go. And I just think that you can build, look, Witts and him, Rowell and Anderson and a couple of others, you can build that midfield and make it as deadly as any in the competition. And that's why when King will come back next year and you've got Chola who's already highly competitive, backline is quite sound, they're at the cusp of the next stage.
We'll get into some of the coaching merry-go-round stuff because it's a fascinating landscape at the moment, obviously, with North Melbourne and GWS at least looking for a senior coach in season 2023. The Western Bulldogs and St Kilda coming up. There's no late change here at Docklands. Luke Cleary is the sub for the Western Bulldogs and Ben Long is the sub for St Kilda. The roof is on, as you'd expect, for Friday night footy here at Docklands. The Chief Executive of the Western Bulldogs Football Club is Amit Bains. We're always very blessed when we get the chance to catch up with the Bulldogs Chief, and I'm pleased to say he joins us in the box again on Grandstand AFL. Amit, thanks for dropping by.
Thanks for having me, Corbin. Good evening, everyone.
My first one to you. So the Western Bulldogs sitting 8-8. You're a game outside the top 8 at the moment. Last year you spent so much of the season in the top 2. How do you assess the season to date so far through 17 weeks?
Yeah, I think based on pure ladder position and wins and losses, it's obviously been a really disappointing season to date, and I think one that's been underpinned by inconsistency across the year. We felt, a fortnight ago, having won 5 of our last 6 games and got back in the top 8, albeit momentarily as it turned out, that we turned a bit of a corner, but obviously a disappointing fortnight on the road in Brisbane and Sydney.
What have you been able to identify, I guess, on reflection as to where or why it's gone wrong?
Yeah, I think Bevo, the coach, has spoken a bit about that in the last couple of weeks. At different times, whether it's been a bit of ball use or consistency in terms of our effort and intensity in quarters of games across the year. And when you're playing sides the calibre of Sydney and Brisbane and you have those lapses, you can get opened up pretty easily. And I think, particularly in both of those games, some of our ball use skill errors in open play, and we're a team that obviously has our defenders participate in our attack as well. So if you're turning the ball over in open play, we are exposed, and the good teams have made us pay in the past fortnight.
Mate, when I look at guys like Tom Liberatore and Jack McRae, they played to the standard that we would all expect from them. Just another really good couple of years from those types of players. But how have you seen the growth of the younger players? And maybe Jamari Ugle-Hagan, maybe it's too much on him being so early on his career, but players like that, why haven't they quite jumped as much as we expected them to?
Yeah, look, there have been and I'll come back to that, Lingy, but I think to focus on a few that have really stepped up this season, I think Ed Richards is a good example of that, Cody Waitman, Riley West certainly in the last 6 weeks. Tim English has been another one, and Tim's probably going back to a bit of the patchiness. We've just, every team's had to deal with it, but we've had those occasions of bad luck. So Tim had a bad case of the flu, missed 2 weeks, then did his hamstring before he came back, missed another 2, came back, got a sling tackle concussion, misses another 2. So, his season's been disrupted, and obviously not an area where we've had strong depth, and that's hurt us a bit. But I think for some of the other guys, the form, again, to use that word, it's been a bit inconsistent. I think, you look at some of the games that someone like a Jamara has played here against Sydney earlier in the year, and it was a more complete game and probably hasn't sustained that at different times. And I think part of that has also been, some of the players that have been around those players. I think at times, as you'll know, you really need your best and most experienced players playing at their peak to provide a bit of protection for those younger players too.
And congratulations on the job you've done out there too. It's been fantastic, and I've followed your career from the St Kilda days through and back up. Just on the players, it appears to me that your greatest strength has now become your greatest weakness. It's not that they're not playing great in the centre, it's just that everyone knows if you can actually go level with them, all of a sudden you've got the back line exposed and the forward line not... It's probably not functional, let's face it, because it's not kicking enough goals, or it's not kicking enough goals to win the big games and spreading the workload. What's in store for the end of the year in regard to draftees and perhaps free trade and that sort of stuff? Are you targeting any particular position?
Yeah, I think you've identified it well. I think last week, probably, though, the midfield should carry a little bit of blame. I think the first quarter it was 20 inside 50s, and obviously a lot of that out of the centre square with Chad Warner. But yeah, no, key defensive stocks have been a bit of an issue. I think if you look at our own list, someone like a Sam Darcy is a really good question. So he's played now 6 games or 7 games in the VFL, has played centre-half back, centre-half forward in the ruck. So the decisions that are made by the coaching group around where he might end up can partly answer some of those questions, but certainly defence has been a challenge. Up forward, it's amazing to see Josh Bruce back. Clearly Aaron has struggled for a bit of support across the year, and to Lingy's question, some of those younger players, be it, Shaki, Jamara, Buku's been trialled up there. They haven't consistently provided that support. So I think having someone like Brucey back and hopefully, with some continuity will make a big difference.
Do you see a target player? Is there anyone out there that...
Yeah, I mean, Sam Power, obviously, in terms of heading up our list management group, Don Malesi in recruiting and the team have, identified a number of players that we think can help us.
Yeah, and your salary cap, can I just say about your salary cap, is that... Have you got enough room in there for a couple or one?
Depending on the
like a buddy or someone,
the type of depending on the type of contract. But no, there's definitely room to bring players in. I think that's another, to give Sam another pump up.
Right.
The way he's managed the salary cap's been exceptional, and the one major positive with respect to the playing group this year has been the fact that from Jack McRae right through to Tim English most recently, and hopefully Bailey Smith and Josh Dunkley in the coming weeks.
Sure.
All of those key players have re-signed and recommitted, which has been great.
Do you go after Liam Jones as a backup for that key defensive post?
Yeah, I think you have to ask the question now. Obviously, the AFL vaccination policy softened in line with the Vic government relaxing its rules in the last few days. So, we expect that Liam will be able to return. So, clearly that's a conversation that, we're having and we'll be keen to explore.
Will Sam Darcy make his debut before the end of the season?
I think he's a good chance. Certainly, one of the things with Sam and the way he's been managed this year is that he's still growing. So I think, it's been offset a few times across the year, but he's grown almost 5 centimetres since he got drafted. So with that, he's had open growing plates and at different times of the year he hasn't coped with a physical load of training. So it's only been in the last couple of games that he's played unrestricted minutes. But no, he's been very impressive, and Bevo is someone who does pick players if he feels they're in form and ready to play, so he's a chance.
And Amit, COVID may still be the most important player in determining the outcome of this season. You're missing 3 tonight because of H&S protocols, including arguably your best or your second best player in Aaron Norton. How worried or how concerned are you about the impact it could have on the final 6 weeks of your season? And do you see it maybe ruining a team's season?
Yeah, I think there's a heightened level of concern and anxiety now. A couple of our players went down late yesterday. In fact, Aaron Norton, as you will have seen, was declared out after the teams went in. He only tested positive sort of at about 6 o'clock, 6:30 last night. Pleasingly, everyone cleared their tests this morning. We're also missing Matt Spanger, our forward line coach tonight, who has COVID. So Jamie Maddox, our development coach, will step up to fill that breach. But I think, there was an AFL CEO's call on Thursday, which was primarily talking about the vaccination policy changes, but there was a lot of discussion around COVID management and obviously, every team having been affected, but Brisbane in a really big way. So as of the last 24 hours, I think most clubs have now reintroduced a number of protocols, particularly around the club and on game day to keep everyone safe.
Amit Baines, the Chief Executive of the Western Bulldogs, with us on Grandstand AFL as we count down to the Dogs and the Saints. You mentioned your coach, Luke Beveridge. He's really been a constant story attached to the Dogs throughout the year, really after his outburst following Game 1 and the loss in the grand final rematch to Melbourne. There's been a lot of talk about the IP that's departed the Western Bulldogs. We learned today there's going to be a $750,000 lift in the soft cap over the next 2 years, so I'm sure that'll be welcomed by club chief executives like yourself. But just as a general welfare question, how is Luke Beveridge going at the moment?
Yeah, he's going well. Obviously, as you referenced, Corbin, round one wasn't an outcome that anyone wanted to see, and to his credit, he accepted full responsibility for that and was genuinely contrite. And I think since that time has been terrific with the media conferences. In fact, our media guys try and wind him up at the weekly ones. I think we went over 20 minutes this week. But no, he's in a good space. I think, like all of us, to an extent, particularly those at the coalface in the footy program, just the level of disappointment and frustration that we're sitting 8-8 with a playing group that we think should be going better.
He doesn't do a lot of additional sort of media. We don't really hear a lot from him apart from his weekly press conference. There's also been the question raised about sort of the life cycle of a coach and as to how long clubs should stick with a senior coach. I think he's the second longest serving in the history of the Western Bulldogs now. Do you see any sort of change in his sort of relationship with the Western Bulldogs, I guess, going forward, given how long he has been there?
Not at this point in time. I think ultimately, the connection back to the playing group and the footy program itself will still determine the length. He's in season 8. In 7 completed seasons, the club under his tutelage has played in 5 finals and 2 grand finals. He's still got that hunger. I think, notwithstanding the way the results have panned out this year, our playing group is really determined to return to grand final day and go one better. A lot of work to do to get there this year, obviously, but from a playing point of view, we think we've got a list that can contend well and truly beyond this year. So in that context, he remains very hungry, committed. His relationships are really strong. And I think to come back to the point I made about, all of the key players re-signing, he's a significant part of that.
So he's hungry, and we know that. And he spoke post-match last week and almost put it on the players a little bit. You won 2016, you missed the finals in 2017. You made the grand final last year, and you're really up against it to make finals this year. If you don't make the finals, Amit, can you put your finger on, is motivation a problem with the playing group this year?
I don't think it's motivation. I mean, it's hard. Clearly, and you've all been around the game for a long time, it's hard to quantify some of the mental aspects of it. And last year, and, I often talk about not just grand final day and the result, but having been on the road with the team, that last 4 or 5 weeks was incredibly arduous. And, some of the commentary at the end of 2020 about hub life and some of the challenges, this was on another level altogether. And, at the end of the day, that was what it was, and we blew our top 4 chance, so I had to go via the Cape. But that in itself was really gruelling, and I think if you then, without wanting to make excuses, because ultimately our performances haven't been good enough this year, you then have a number of players who miss pre-season with surgery and things like that. We start the season with poor performance poorly, and we're always playing catch-up. And just haven't quite got there, unfortunately. So if we miss, clearly it'll be massive disappointment to everyone because we expect a lot more. Our fans expect a lot more, which is what we like. We want them to believe in us. But we'll also, to Mick's question, get the list adjustments right in the off-season and back this group to return in a big way. But certainly starting with tonight, we still think that we'll play finals and hopefully tonight's the first step in that direction again.
And just lastly then, Amit, the comments from Luke Beveridge post-game after the Sydney loss, so essentially he said that now is absolutely important, but the future is critical to make sure we can lay some foundations to make sure we're setting ourselves up for what happens in the future. So I guess for Western Bulldogs fans out there, is the priority on the 6 weeks ahead of the Dogs, or is it on sort of 2023 and beyond? Are you already looking ahead?
I think it's once you get to this point of the year, particularly for, say, the list management group, it's both, and I don't think they need to be mutually exclusive. Certainly, given the performances of the last 2 weeks, all of the focus, the talk, the effort this week has been on atoning out here on Friday night, and, we do have a challenging run home, but we also feel we've got a group that's capable. Josh Bruce back is great. Probably the other one that we've missed through his own ill discipline, obviously, is Bailey Smith, probably our best player to date when he missed. So to have him back tonight and his hard running and work ethic will make a big difference.
We always love to just get every minute that you have available to us. We love to squeeze every minute out of, mate, whenever you get the chance to drop by. So thanks for jumping in the ABC box tonight. Good luck for tonight and for the remainder of the season. Appreciate your time as always.
No problems. Thanks for having me.
Good luck. Amit Baines, the Chief Executive of the Western Bulldogs. It's the Dogs and the Saints coming up in a virtual elimination final. Luke Cleary and Ben Long, the 2 subs. There's no late change.
So from that, we can say that Liam Jones is definitely a target for the Dogs to go back to his original home. And
that's right.
He would, no doubt the plan would be try and develop another defender to come in after him. But as a stopgap measure, it's exactly what the Dogs need. If they could have him right now, they'd be very, very happy.
Absolutely. And Sam Darcy to play, you would think, in the next couple of weeks as well.
It's a lot to grow in a year, isn't it? Already tall, 5 centimetres in
It's
1
extraordinary.
year.
Amazing.
So is he? It says here 205. Does that mean he's 210 now? Because these measurements would have been pre-season.
Probably.
Yeah.
He'd be the tallest key defender.
Absolutely. Well, I think Ned Reeves is the tallest player in the league at like 213, so he's in that neighbourhood.
So you've got Paul Salmon, who was 208 as a key forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably the tallest key forward.
It's good size and modern day bigs in the competition nowadays. This is Grandstand AFL. We got Friday night footy coming up. The full preview of the Saints and the Dogs next.
Did you know that ABC's sibling?
Hi.
The ABC Kids Listen app with music to move and podcasts to play. ABC Kids Listen stimulates curiosity, fires imaginations, and fosters good listening skills.
Wow. That's a funny noise.
Discover a world of entertainment that will spark creativity in the minds of your little ones and get them up and moving. Download ABC Kids Listen today, free from your app store.
If you love sport, we've got the podcast for you. ABC Sport Daily, it's your daily sports conversation.
It certainly doesn't help.
I think it goes back more historically when it was such a big deal to break 10 seconds.
Was that the best game of Origin you've ever seen?
Stacky, I'm not afraid to say it. I think it's the best one I've ever watched. 14 straight losses this season has definitely amounted to this. David Noble given 38 games at the helm.
ABC Sport Daily. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
We're gonna be kids.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
It's an easy sell tonight. It feels like a virtual elimination final with 6 rounds left in the home and away season. Round 18 begins with a showdown between the Western Bulldogs and St Kilda. If the Dogs lose tonight, they will be 2 games out with just 5 to play. A steep decline for last year's grand finalists. While for St Kilda, they were inside the top 4 5 weeks ago. They've won just 1 game since. If they win tonight, though, they'll reclaim their place in the top 8. It is Friday night footy under the roof at Docklands, the Western Bulldogs and the Saints. There is no late change for either team. Luke Cleary is the sub for the Bulldogs and Ben Long for the Sainters. Corbin Middlemass in commentary alongside Kelly Underwood, Tim Hodges on the boundary, Mick Malthouse and Cameron Ling, as always, on a Friday night. Now, the big news story of the week, gentlemen, was clearly whenever a coach departs, and we saw that at Arden Street this week after just 38 games, 5 wins in that time. North Melbourne cut ties effective immediately with David Noble. What was your, reaction to the departure of Noble from Arden Street?
My immediate reaction was one of, I really felt for David Noble because I think he's a terrific footy person. I think the jobs he's done at various clubs has been excellent, and not in senior coaching positions. He got his opportunity and it didn't work out. The other reaction is, I don't think North Melbourne have any clue about exactly where their club's at right now.
No.
The idea that they've got a great list and everything's all good and looking beautiful except for the senior coach is completely delusional for me, Mick. That list has got a heap of work that needs doing to it. Yes, there's a couple of young players there who can seriously play and they need time and they need development, but it has got holes everywhere.
Well, if you took the number one side of the competition at the moment is Geelong, how many of those players, or go vice versa, how many North Melbourne players would fit in Geelong? And you've got to look through the side and go, well, on potential, there's a couple maybe potential but not on form. Going to what you said, Lingy, I'll follow up and say, I reckon they've bowed to public pressure or media pressure, but they don't have plan B. I don't know whether they, in their mind, gone, well, who is going to take over and who have we got in mind to take the job? The question I ask, and I've written about this, I've got to say, is why? What are they going to get out of it? If they think they can just jump into a Clarkson situation, they've got rocks in their head. For him to go there, but it's not what you hear, and it's not what he's been saying. So therefore, if it's to jump and be in front of another coach, I don't know who it is. I mean, I don't know anyone who's sort of saying, well, who's the next AFL coach?
They're going to have to convince someone to coach
My
there.
word, they are.
If it's a person they really, really want to get.
If you were on North Melbourne's board, Mick, who would you be making a phone call to?
Mark Williams.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
Do they need experience after failures with first-time coaches David Noble and Reece Shaw?
That side there, absolutely. In my mind, they have to have someone who knows the ropes.
Sorry, Langy, you go.
Can I ask on your Mark Williams scenario, are you talking as it's Mark Williams the coach and into the foreseeable future, or are you talking Mark Williams does it for 2 to 3 years and creates a successor with a young, untried coach?
I think you do a Mark Williams with someone underneath him, but if Mark is going well and has got the fire in the belly, why stop it? Promise nothing to the one underneath, because they come and go. You get those just keep popping up, because there's going to be at some stage there's going to be a Pendlebury who's going to retire and go into some form of coaching. So the idea for North is not to experiment. I can't see how a club at this level now, what's happened with them, they've made some disastrous decisions, and they've now got in a delusional state about how good their player list is. They need a steadying influence. They need someone who is highly passionate but been down the street before and knows which turns and twists that have to take place, and is not surprised by what happens next Monday or next Saturday or at the end of the year. He knows it because he's been down there.
So they're two most high profile in the media former players, David King and Wayne Carey.
Right.
Didn't even draw breath when they said Ross Lyon's the man.
And have they either been under Ross Lyon?
No, they haven't.
And what's their criteria in
well,
picking
it's
Ross
interesting
Lyon?
because they talk about the toughness, and we need someone that's straight down the line and won't muck about. But wasn't like David Noble like that? He had to apologise for being too tough.
That's exactly what David Noble is. He's an honest, quality quality football person that would give it to you straight. He'd support you, but he'd give it to you straight. Well,
and
isn't that more of that?
Isn't that what Mark Williams is renowned for as well? Cameron Ling, as a captain that's admired in this game for so long, how would you have felt playing underneath Mark Williams?
I would have loved playing under Mark Williams, because he strikes me as somebody who would absolutely hit you between the eyes, but he would support that with a real arm around you and a teaching method of, okay, that's unacceptable, but here's how we're going to get better together and go on that journey together. I think I would have really enjoyed. I would have thrived under him.
Well, I played against him, not in that same team, different teams, Richmond, Collingwood. I've coached against him. I've stood around boundaries watching junior football for drafting with him. I've studied coaches and people, and he is the exact type of person that they need.
The Western Bulldogs are out on the playing arena, as you can probably hear in the background. Among them is Bailey Smith, who plays his first game since round 12. Of course, he's missed 2 with the on-field suspension and then 2 with the off-field indiscretion, which obviously came to light. So after missing 4 games, he's back for the Western Bulldogs. And the other man returning is Josh Bruce, having missed 342 days. He's back from an ACL tear, so actually back inside 12 months. We're still awaiting the arrival of the Saints, but there's no late change. We can't leave this conversation without talking about Alistair Clarkson, of course, the 4-time premiership coach who's still out there on the market, says he wants to coach next year. At this moment, there's only 2 jobs available. It's either North Melbourne or GWS. Do either of you forecast that he's going to end up at either of those clubs?
No.
Wow.
No, I do not. Can I put a tiny little asterisk on that comment, Corbs?
Yep.
And say that if it was to be North Melbourne, it would mean that it is an entire regime change. It would be nearly everyone gone and nearly everyone new coming in with Clarkson.
And a 10-year contract, because it'll take him that long.
Yeah, because it's not just David Noble. It absolutely is not just David Noble. The list is not good.
Yep. So you're saying he would bring in his own footy manager, his people, his...
Well, that's the only way you're going to convince him to do it.
Yep.
Because he would look at that list and say, okay, Larkey, Mackay, Zerha, yep, great. They're ticks, there's something to work with. Davies, Uniacke, Horn-Francis, absolutely bit of talent in the midfield. Simpkin and McDonald, solid players. Goldstein and Zeeble, well, they're super experienced and are at the other end of their career, but they've been terrific servants. Where do I go beyond that? Yes, there's still a bit of other talent, Phillips and these
Thomas maybe,
but Taron Thomas maybe. All that, you go maybe, but that's not a list. That's 10 players maybe to work with. Clarko would be thinking, I need to get the entire thing right. So the only way you attract him is change everything. I don't think that's going to happen, so which means I don't think that Clarkson goes there.
So where does he go?
Oh, I think
he goes to the side you're barrack for.
The Dons.
Well, that's what,
there's still a coach in place there, Mick.
There is a coach in place, and I feel for the coach in place. But I would say that for some mystery reason, I'm a little bit beyond it. I've got to say, I think it's so media driven and perhaps even his manager driven that Alistair Clarkson is a god, and I think he's quite human. I really do believe it. I think you just got to look through his record. He's got a very good record, but at the back end of his record, he wasn't so good. And I think there's an obsession. And I think Essendon, to me, if they've got no way of making the 8, will have this obsession about we haven't made the 8. We should. We finished 8th last year. We should be a better side. Let's get him.
Wow.
That's. I just think football's that ruthless, and I don't think he's got an attachment to Clarkson has got an attachment to Rutten, so I don't see what.
If he ends up at Essendon, and there's multiple changes that obviously have to make before then, imagine Essendon and Hawthorn the first time they meet next year with Sam Mitchell in the Hawks coach's box and
Jeff Kennett in the green and gold blazer, brown and gold blazer.
Yeah,
wind the clock back, old school Essendon Hawthorn rivalries.
Could you see him at Essendon next year?
I am really hesitant to.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of water
that's
got to go under the narrows before then.
I like Ben Rutten. He's in a job, and I don't want to chuck him out. They're the type of club, I think, who could make a move like that. Can I ask, just to understand what potentially goes on behind the scenes, if Essendon was making a move like that, knowing they're out of finals, they don't need to lock in on this year, are those conversations already taking place? Is this a deal that's done behind the scenes a month out from the season ending?
No doubt. No, if it is happening, it'll be no doubt. They're not going to wait to the end of the season to say, "Oh, we finished 15th. We're going to make a change." If this is happening, it's already in process of happening.
Have you, Mick, been in the position that Ben Rutten is in, where you are the senior coach and you know that the board is having discussions behind your back with your next replacement? I knew 2 years out that I was going to be replaced at Collingwood. It wasn't. You knew 2 years.
It wasn't after the grand final premiership. It was a year before or 2 years before that. At West Coast, I had already said we're going back. So what West Coast were going to do then was really up to them. And I was hoping that they were doing something, because I'd already declared that we were heading back for family reasons, which there's no denying that. The Dogs. I reckon the Dogs. I reckon if I look deep enough at the Dogs, they look like they're going to join up with Fitzroy at the time, and the favoured son Terry Wheeler was there. And how much was done behind the scenes there, I really wouldn't know, but Terry got the job.
Yeah.
These things aren't a mystery. Let me tell you, Kelly, and you might be safe where you are down the sevens basketball, but let me tell you, a couple more losses like that, and there'll be a lot of people in the stand wanting your job.
This is Friday Night Footy on Grandstand AFL. Mick Moldhouse, Cameron Ling, Corbin Middlemass and Kelly Underwood. Tim Hodges on the boundary. We've got a hell of a game of footy in front of us. There's so much going on in the footy landscape, but for the full preview, Mick Moldhouse and Cameron Ling. There's no late change for the Bulldogs. Luke Cleary is the Medi sub, and for St Kilda, Ben Long is their Medi sub. St Kilda out on the ground. It's their away game, but they're wearing their traditional jumper, the columns with the red, white and black and the white shorts. Western Bulldogs home game, so predominantly in the royal blue with the red and white hoop. What are we in for tonight, lads?
Well, Mick, I think at heart, some opposition fans might find this hard to believe, but I'm a loving and caring person. Yeah. I find it very difficult to fall in love with either of these teams, Mick, because
at the moment,
when I look at them at different times throughout the year, I've got really excited that, okay, the Dogs midfield can do this. Aaron Norton up forward, I know he's not playing tonight, but he can do this. The Saints, how good were they not that long ago? It felt like against the Cats, where they just blew them out of the water, and the Saints, all of a sudden, they can do this. And then you see the bad side of them and you think, why did I ever believe in them?
I know.
They're both strange teams in that way.
Well, I made the comment, Lingy, I reckon the dog's strength is their weakness, because everyone knows that contested football is the only way that they can win games of footy. So therefore you see sides now actually take the contested football away from them, because they get themselves in a position of cutting the supply line through the ruckman or whatever, and that puts pressure on the back line, which is inadequate. We've said that all year. Front half is higgledy-piggledy. You might mark and kick a goal, you may not. There doesn't seem to be any system, and I reckon Josh Bruce has had a lot to do with that, because with Josh Bruce, you've got him and Norton together were a far better combination than one or the other. So, and they're a victim of that knee injury. But the Saints up the other end, I just can't believe that Ben Long's as a sub for start off, because he's one that fights like you can't believe at both ends of the ground. And they've got players like Butler and Higgins playing together. They might as well be twins, because and you need to join them together to have one complete player. And then you've got the two ruckmen who rarely lose when they're together, but they just don't. But I reckon, we're talking about twins, I reckon Ross and Crouch are the same player. They're both slow, they both go sideways, so they don't get any penetration.
Well, that's the thing that gets me most about St Kilda. Look at that ruck combo. It's as good as any in the competition. I love Jack Steele. I just think he's an outstanding footballer. Jade Gresham has bounced back from a really bad injury so well. Sinclair has been superb off half-back for them. There's all these ticks for St Kilda, and yet it's not equating to consistently great football. And Wilkie, sorry, I should have even thrown him out. I think Wilkie's been superb all year as well. So then I look at the others, and I think, okay, who else in that group hasn't jumped up like they should? Jack Billings is yet to make that really big leap. I know he had a late start to the year. Zach Jones also had a late start to the year, but as soon as he came into that midfield, I just feel like they lost their balance between being able to be accountable but also attack really well. Seb Ross misses tonight, but you're right. Him and Crouch are both, when they're in just possession-winning, counting their possessions form, they're a liability. When, I'm going back to the first half of the year, when they are creative with their hands, they're aggressive with their ball use, actually freeing up runners who are going to damage things, they're a big plus. So finding that, I think, is going to be the key to St Kilda actually relaunching their season.
Well, if I throw some names at you, give us what your impression. Wood.
A good athlete, but doesn't do it consistently enough for me.
Hill.
Frustrating as hell. When they were playing good footy, I thought they found a good role for him. Half forward, damaging run. I get frustrated when he calls for the ball around the back, little gives.
What about King?
Max King?
Yeah.
I still see Max King. I know we all, and quite rightly, jump to him being one of the best key forwards in the comp. I still just think he's a young player who's...
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say, I love him, because, and there's a hint that everyone says, he sulks and this sort of stuff. He has got a demeanour like his brother. They both got slightly rolled rounded shoulders. They don't want to be standing out with their height, and I reckon it started from school. He stands up like no one else does, because they all know St Kilda, unfortunately, go to him more often than anyone else, and they just double team him.
And he's 55 games into his career, so let's call that 3 seasons of roughly 20 games. I know he's in his 4th, but when you look at the really great key forwards, and I think of Tom Hawkins, who I had the pleasure of playing with. Tom Hawkins did not show any true consistency until his 6th season of football. He had a great final series in his 5th season, but he was dropped twice that year. In his 6th season, that's when it really clicked for him. Max King is way ahead of schedule, 55 games into his career. So, I love him. He's just a young player.
I'll name this player. He's not playing. He's announced his retirement, and I think it's worthy of us saying something about it. The former captain, Jared Geary, I just think... Did you actually play against him at all?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I rated him very highly as a competitor.
Isn't he just a heart and soul player? What a shame that he's had to end his career on an injury note like he's had over the last 2 or 3. He's had the most horrific injuries and keeps getting back. So he should be able to stand very tall as a St Kilda player, I think he's done remarkably well. Well said.
Absolutely. We echo that sentiment. Jaron Geary announcing his retirement during the week. It is the back end of NAIDOC week, so as a result, a couple of our Indigenous players who are playing tonight for the two teams, Nasiah Wanganeen Millera and also Jamara Ugle-Hagan, both attending the coin toss and exchanging some gifts. Marcus Bontempelli, the captain of the Western Bulldogs. And Dan Butler is there for St Kilda, so he's got the duties at the coin toss after he is celebrating his 100th game tonight. He played, of course, 45 of those at Richmond, winning a premiership in just his 23rd game back in 2017 before making the switch to St Kilda. Tim Hodges is with us again tonight on the boundary. Good evening, Hodgie.
Good evening, crew. Nice to be with you. A win for Dan Butler in his 100th. The Saints will kick to... Well, it doesn't have a name on the Lockett end. It was the Lockett end. It's right of screen if you're at home listening to us, watching on the telly. It is Jaron Geary, just for you, Mick. He is down, continuing his role with the Saints on the bench. So great to see him the day after announcing his retirement. It is a cool Melbourne evening, 11 degrees at the moment, a low of 7 tonight. Thank goodness for the roof. The crowd is not great for a Friday night. The Dogs are expecting 30,000. I'm not sure we'd even have 20 in at the moment, so hopefully it does build over the next 10-15 minutes with some latecomers. Just repeating, no late changes. The medical subs for the Dogs, Luke Cleary; for the Saints, Ben Long. I've got the popcorn ready, guys. I think it will be a ferocious opening with seasons on the line.
Jimmy, I reckon a lot of people are up around the MCG at the moment watching something different.
There's the Red Devils, Manchester United playing across town. Who wins, Lingy?
St Kilda.
Saints.
Kel?
The Saints.
I don't say that with a lot of confidence, Corbs.
We're all on the Saints. So,
but then look at the Dogs' midfield. Libba, Dunkley, Bontempelli and English to start in the middle. They should be so much better.
A virtual elimination final to start round 18 of the AFL Premiership season on Grandstand AFL. You're with Kelly Underwood.
Ryder was stalking, but it was English that won it in the air. At ground level, Crouch gives it to Ryder. Quick hands to Steele. It misses Crouch. Charging through comes Hill. Wanting it more was McNeil. Little give to Dunkley. High ball. There's no Norton down there tonight. It goes in the Bruce direction. Wilkie picks it up and just hacks it out of the dangerous area. Bouncing ball. And it will favour Williams, but he's tackled by a couple of Saints. He stands up in that tackle. And it'll be a ball up at half forward here for the Bulldogs. Bailey Williams it was that was tackled. The other Bailey tonight, Bailey Smith, still yet to get a touch, early stages.
Starting on the bench, Kel.
That's why he hasn't got a touch, Lingy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just easing him into the game, no doubt.
Missed the last month with a couple of controversies. So, ball to be won here on the wing. Bontempelli slides in, couldn't get the hands clear. The other captain it is Steele who emerges with it. A bouncing ball down the line. King was there, overruns it. Gardner picks it up, back to Keith. Keith hacks it, player in front. Steele juggles the mark. So Jack Steele taking the mark in front of Dunkley and then kicks backwards. A retreating kick to Webster at half-back.
And Webster will look inside the defensive 50 to Battle, who marks half-back line, swings it from one back flank to the other. This is Sharman who takes the mark, continues to shift up to the city wing for Wilkie. Hand pass away to Hill, steps his way around Riley West, has a bounce. Hill puts St Kilda into the front half but turns it over. Bontempelli with the intercept, kicks into the middle for Jamara, no mark, spills away to Josh Bruce, goes to ground, coughs it up, Burns for the Saints, hand pass to Webster. He's drilled in the tackle immediately. Big heavy tackle from Ugle-Hagan and the umpire says ball up. The tanking edge of the centre square for the Western Bulldogs. 2 minutes in, there's no score either way and no late change between the Bulldogs and the Saints.
This time Ryder wins it, flicks it behind him. Liberatore read it well off his hands. Handballs to Hannon it was, and the quick kick, player in front. Battle, who's had a great season down back for the Saints. He takes the mark, uncontested, flicks it wide to King, who's come all the way up to the defensive side of this broadcast or dockside wing.
It's good to see King come out of the goal square and get into the game early. He's been up playing high already.
Kicks to Membry, asks a lot of him. Membry out muscles two Bulldogs defenders with a double grab. Too far out to score. Membry's just going to pop it into the pocket where Paddy Ryder's got a little bit of space. Terrific work there by Bontempelli, who read it so well. And what about the pickup, the clean hands? Got it off to Karmas, looking for Ugle-Hagan. It's been stolen by the Saints. And Sharman's kick couldn't find a target inside 50.
Richards with the intercept mark goes short to Dunkley. who missed the main session during the week with soreness, but he's out there and okay. Hand pass for English. He had a fumble, lost it. Marshall for the Saints. Hand pass to Gresham. Kicks top of the goal square. Karmas and King compete close to the boundary line. King keeps it alive. Karmas wanting the safety of the boundary line. Picks it up, falls out of play. Says that's all okay, and a boundary throw in forward pocket for St Kilda.
That's what we've been seeing with the Dogs now the last 2 weeks, just giving the ball straight back. Errors in ball handling and probably choice of delivery.
So boundary throw in, deep forward for the Saints. Ryder got a hand to it. Crouch passing through. Hand pass back to Burns in dispute, and he's lost it. Spills out to Richards. Jams it on the boot to centre half back for the Bulldogs. Jamara crashes the pack. Ball spills in front of McRae. Hand pass too hot for Waitman. Straight into the path of Billings. Kicks to the top of the goal square. Gardner underneath at no mark. Comes to English to Karmas. And a hand pass away to Hannon. Last line of defence. He comes out of defensive 50.
Stolen by Sinclair. He's been the Saints' best player. A little give and go. He gets it back. He curls it round top of the goal square. They fly. Bontempelli with the fist. He's got it towards Liberatore. He has to get down on all fours and really scramble. And now it's Wood applying a tackle. Little give to Liberatore. Skies the ball. It'll land just inside that centre square. Ugal Hayden got really high but nowhere near the Sherrin. Fell heavily. It squirts the way of Liberatore. Off to Dale. Little give and go he has with McRae, and then Bailey Dale's kick rubbers along the outer side. Picked up well by Ugal Hagen. Sidesteps one. Handballs off to McRae. They've worked it well here. The Dogs around the dock side to Waitman. Waitman's all-important kick goes to half forward where Bruce had it. And Bruce has taken his opponent high. It'll be a free kick for the Saints.
It's not the first free kick. It's almost the first free kick for the day.
It feels like the first pause in a while.
Yep.
Nearly 5 minutes of play here and there's no score yet.
No late change as Wilkie goes back to Sharman. So Cooper Sharman starting in defence. You've got Hannon again down back for the Bulldogs and Buku Karmas in defence. So a few different roles for a couple of the guys we used to seeing at the other end. It's the Saints with the short kicking game. Sharman to Billings and now to Burns.
Ryder wants this long. He's with Karmas. He's not going to get a run at it though.
Burns goes long down the wing and Max King reaching over the back of Hannon takes the mark. As King looks inside the forward 50. Down to half forward for the Saints over the head of Patton who started forward. Just pushing in straight off it. The man there in Higgins and tried to get a little snap going forward. It was smothered on the way through. Bounces off the behind post and we'll have a boundary throw in.
Alex Keith was down behind play, Mick. Did you see what happens? He's had both trainers out to him and he's waved them off and said he's okay.
Yeah, a little bump from Jack Steele.
Yeah, it's only little too, wasn't it? It wasn't much in it at all.
So Ben Patton starting forward for the Saints. Bailey Smith on the ground and immediately involved. Reads the hit out from English. Hand pass to Bontempelli. Kicks out of defensive 50. Waitman flies, no mark, spills down to Bruce, who kicks inboard for McNeil. Hand pass away to Bailey Smith. Listen to the roar for the most marketable player in the game. Has a bounce, kicks deep in the Riley West direction. He's outnumbered and the kick's too wide and bounces out of play in the forward pocket for the Bulldogs. A boundary throw in.
He just racing with his disposal there, Bailey Smith, but his hard run from the back 50 was electric.
No score, 6.5 minutes in. Deep forward for the Dogs. Boundary throw in. Marshall grabs it out of the ruck, hands it to Burns. His kick trickles 15 metres further forward, but straight to McNeil of the Bulldogs at half forward. Hand pass got its way to Johannesen, then to Liberatore. And his centering kick superb. And Bontempelli waiting back in the corridor marks 30 metres out, virtually straight in front.
It's exactly what you just said, Corbin. In the corridor, by himself. Saints had 6 further afield, 2 outside 50 and stood and watched. Where else is the ball going to go? From a seasoned player, that's where it's going to go.
He's the engine that makes this team go. Marcus Bontempelli to start the scoring. He does so, but with just a behind. First one of the night, a missed set shot for the Dogs in the corridor. 7 minutes in, Bulldogs that behind, Saints yet to score.
Saints don't waste any time bringing it back into play. Sinclair's gone around the city side. It's stolen in the air, though, by the Dogs. Good mark to Gardner. Gardner fires it back into the dangerous territory. Spoil comes, spills away Johannesen. Ugal Hagen with the snap for the opener. Ugal Hagen. Exactly what the doctor ordered. He needed a confident start. And he produces first goal of the night. The Doggies 1-1-7 at the 7-minute mark here under the closed roof at Docklands. The Saints yet to score.
It was a rare mistake from Sinclair with his kick out. Just a bad kick. to Paddy Ryder, put it to his Bulldog opponent, Ryan Gardner's advantage side, and from there it was just nice and simple by the Dogs. Good contest, good front and square, and a little handball and a class finish by Ugle Hagen. You're right, Cal, that's important for his confidence. I think just every single week that we get to see him live, we're seeing somebody grow in confidence and understand the work rate that's needed to be a key forward in the AFL. It's going to take time, a long time, but you can see it growing.
Lingy, that's 72 possessions for the first score.
Yeah.
Or second score. So it's a lot of football.
Back in the middle, English palms it down to Liberatore. Hand pass away to Bailey Smith. Kicks to right half forward. Pitches just a metre in from the boundary line. Masai Wanganeen Miller had a play on it, but it spills the Dogs' way. Now it's Jamara takes on the tackle of the goal kicker. Hands it to McNeil. Back to West. Kicks inside the attacking 50. Out to meet it was Wood. He couldn't get a clean hand pass away. Eventually links up with Steele. He dishes off to Sinclair. Kicks wide to the City wing, and Higgins and Karmas involved in a bit of a tangle. The ball out of play in front of them, so a throw in on that City wing. 1-1 Western Bulldogs. St Kilda yet to score 9 minutes in on Grandstand AFL.
Flashed up on the giant screen, Corby, that the Dogs have got 50,000 members. Disappointing here tonight when you consider a fortnight ago it was a sellout, Saints playing the Blues. So the Saints have got it in possession, working away across half-back. Jimmy Webster. His kick wasn't great off the boot, but Marshall in front's able to mark it on that outer wing. So they're going around the City side. It's a high ball looking for King. Richards in front with the spoil. The umpire's blown his whistle, has he? It's going to come back. Didn't hear the whistle, but...
3-on-1, Kel. 3-on-1, all kick the ball just to King and say, you got to mark this. You know, you've got three blokes on you. So got no system coming into that forward line.
No, every defender wants to have a reference point, and they know that it's Max King.
One of those three was Gardner. He wins the free. He gives it to Talor, goes along down the line, and Marshall with the intercept mark. No. He's going to bring it back into play. English is going to steal it. The intended target down there was Higgins. English gives it to Karmas, and the delivery is pinpoint, and marking on his chest all by himself just inside the arc is Jason Johannesson, the Norm Smith medalist from the 2016 Grand Final.
There's a ruckman trying to be thorough merit, bring the ball back through the middle, find a midget.
But off on one step, leaning back.
On a ruckman in the middle, standing there, and you reckon you got to get it around him.
Little thing, Mick. Jason Johannesson would want to kick this goal too. He turned his back straight away and had a couple of teammates on. He may well do it, but that frustrates me.
Slightish angle. Distance shouldn't be a problem, but accuracy is. Cameron Ling's not happy sitting behind me in the box.
And it was Josh Bruce who was breaking to about 10 metres out by himself.
Dogs by 8 points.
Would have been a nice way to get him into the game straight away and make a certainty of it.
Sinclair a little safer on the kick out to the back pocket for Battle. Gives it back to Sinclair and he retreats all the way back to the left back pocket for Webster. Short kick to Wilkie. Wilkie out of the defensive arc to Wanganeen Millera.
He's showing glimpses. This young lady, he's going to be a pretty good footballer.
Pick 11 out of Glenelg in last year's national draft. The only teenager on the ground tonight. He goes short to Higgins, and Higgins is going to go back to Webster. So kick mark game in the defensive half for St Kilda. They're going to try out the dock side. Long kick from Webster to Battle. Opposite back flank. Short kick to Billings. Still in the defensive half. They go back and across to Hill. Both these teams, as Bradley Hill trying to hit up the target in Steele, missed him, made it tough for the captain, drilled in the tackle in the aftermath by West, and a ball up on the wing.
Mick, you and I have said this countless times before. Stop giving the ball to Brad Hill as though he's one of the best kicks in the competition. He's not. It's a myth.
Dogs use it beautifully. Quick hands. Bailey Smith involved. Gets it out to his teammate Garcia. Handballs back to McRae right in front of the interchange gates here. English really crunched then in that tackle, in that marking contest. Spills away. Bailey Smith again. He grits the teeth from 60 out. He delivers it low. And too low. In fact, the delivery wasn't good for the intended target. Dunkley and Wilkie, who's had a brilliant season down back for the Saints, is able to mark uncontested.
Kicks long to the wing. Richards puts his fist through it. Live footy, high half forward for the Dogs. Williams onto it. Hand pass to Karmas, tackled by Burns, taken to ground. And a ball up on the City wing. The last 6 weeks, both these teams last and second last in opposition scores per inside 50. So they conceded a really high rate when the ball goes inside. We've had a lot of possessions for not a lot of scores, though, to start the game. From the stoppage, St Kilda had it, coughed it up by hand. Bontempelli gives it to Karmas. He's under the pump, turns it over too. And Zach Jones at centre-half back for St Kilda kicks wide to Wilkie. Wilkie can hit up Membry, who can mark in front of the interchange gates. Dogs by 8 points. St Kilda haven't scored 13 minutes in.
Slow and steady, the Saints are doing it. Membry in front of the Dogs bench. He's going to bomb it long. It's not a great kick. Karmas was there right at the drop was Treloar. And there's blue jumpers everywhere at ground level. And they're able to share it around. Hannon marks uncontested in the defensive 50.
You're a lot kinder than me, Kel. Slow and steady. I'd just say slow and bad right now.
Bad, boring.
Yes.
Hannon from one pocket to the other to Gardner, and round the other side they go where Dunkley marks. Wants to bring it back inboard for Treloar. Had to get on his bike. Got there eventually. Kicking skills haven't been great so far. Treloar back inboard to Richards. They've still got possession here, the Bulldogs. He's had a good season. Across half-back, his kick, had to meet Hannon. Hannon was standing there. He couldn't take the mark. He was crunched in the end. Rising with it is Garcia. Chance for the Dogs and Bruce. One out. A one-on-one. Flying through was Waitman. He tries to keep it. Bontempelli's got it. And Bontempelli might have been taken high. Is it a free kick for Waitman or Bontempelli in the end?
I think it'd be Waitman.
So he was the first, and then it was Bontempelli that was taken high as well.
It was late, though, the Waitman free kick.
Yeah.
For holding after he flicked it on.
Oh, and I don't know if it was there. On the replay.
Well, Cody Waitman's got the free kick. Saints yet to score after 15 minutes of play. And a chance to put the second on the board for the Bulldogs. What a season for Cody Waitman. 45-degree angle, only 25 metres out. He's been accurate, 24-8. And the sharpshooter continues. Dogs have got their second. 2-2-14, the Saints yet to score.
Well, you might say it's 14 points better, but it's... Well, I guess it is because they've been able to kick 2 goals, but Saints have been horrendous in the forward line structure at the moment because they've just... Even the last kick that went in there by Membry, he was telling the players to move into the centre of the 50-metre area, and he kicked it. All the Dogs players went there, so that's when the rebound come about. So they're not looking to get the ball onto the 50-metre line. They're trying to get it inside 50 at 30 to 40 metres, and it's nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening. St Kilda have had 30 marks so far, Mick, to the Bulldogs 12. 30 marks for 0 scores.
Yeah. All around the back line.
And just chip.
Yep.
So, what's it called? East-west. The old having to stand on the mark east-west. Well, they want to move it that way.
Dogs by 14 points. Sweet wins the hit out. Down to Dunkley. Hand pass to Bailey Smith. Squeezes a kick to centre-half forward. Garcia collects. Does a 180. Puts it inside 50, but battle. Marks in front of Josh Bruce, his former teammate. He shares it with Bradley Hill, who kicks out to the wing. Zach Jones the target. Dale just thumps it into the front row. And a boundary throw-in just forward of halfway for the Bulldogs.
All right, the message has got to go out there. Sinclair or Josh Battle? They're your ball users off half-back, not Bradley Hill.
Saints were playing good football when Hill was playing as a high half-forward coming up the ground.
Spot on.
Dogs by 14 points. We're 16 and a half minutes into the opening term. Ryder wins it down. The Bont takes on the tackler. Now off the deck, just ushers it out in front of Dunkley, trying to soccer it forward. Sinclair there at half-back for the Saints. Hand pass to Burns. Clever kick back inboard to Ryder.
And he had a teammate flying past in Crouch. He gives the little give, and then Crouch delivers straight down the throat of Membry. Membry goes quick in the King direction. Bounces over his head. He's in a wrestle with Gardner. He tries to keep it in play, but the goal line's going to beat them, and the two big men trip over each other's feet and fall over and stumble over that goal line for their first score of the night, Mick Malthouse. It's one behind. The Dogs have got 14 on the board.
Well, even that was directed at Hill, but yet St Kilda had a player running free 20 metres to his left, and it was ignored. Now, there's an open goal. Absolute every day of the week.
Treloar on the kick out again to Richards. Drives it down to half forward. Battle marks. Kicks in the middle of the ground. It's intercepted. Racing away is Bailey Dale. Unmarked goal square, and through it goes. Make it the first 3 for the Bulldogs. And all of a sudden, St Kilda have been caught flat-footed, and the Dogs have jumped them. 17 and a half minutes in. The Western Bulldogs 3-2-20. St Kilda 1 behind. Mick Malthouse, Cameron Ling. This is Grandstand AFL.
Corbs, we might have to reduce that down to Sinclair, I think, as the ball user off half-back. I said Battle. He's got a big red line through his name after that one. That's just a gift, Mick. That is, here you go, run into an open goal.
Looking at the 3 goals that have come, they've all come from poor disposal, either at the source or 2 kicks further up the ground. Missed the target, totally missed the target, and hence here they go.
Tim Hodges on the boundary. Hodgie.
Cal, just watching Jack Steele, just came off the bench. He was furious. He had a message to give, and he went straight to the middle and blasted the 4 blokes in the middle. Now he's gone down to the forward line. So the skipper is absolutely seething out there.
So he should be.
And the umpire said something to the 2 ruckmen and then tossed the ball up in the air. So not sure what's happening there, but the Saints win it out of the centre. They're breaking, and Butler marks on his chest. Too far out to score. This kick needs to be good, and that is a much well-weighted pass. Much better pass, and it's Mason Wood on the end of it.
Well, I've been critical of Butler, but at least he played on quickly so the Dogs' defence couldn't settle, and he needs to do something, Wood, let me tell you.
Well, he's 45-degree angle. He's only about 35 metres out, and he's going the set shot snap. It smacks into the belly of the ball, and it goes nowhere near the goals. And that sums up the Saints' first 15 minutes of play. Billings at spills 2, and he has a standing quick snap. And he misses, and he's offline. The Saints are off. They're out of sorts. They're 2 behinds. The Dogs 3-2-20.
And unfortunately, it's been the familiar theme you've often known in the first 5 minutes with St Kilda this year. The Dogs work it up beyond halfway through the hands of Hannon to McNeil and now to West. Kicks to Jamar and a one-on-one. Wilkie spoils and it's out of bounds. And a throw in, 45 out from the Dogs' goal. They conceded 11 goals to 3 in the second half last week, the Saints. You expect them to come out hissing tonight. Gee, it hasn't been that.
Has not even been close to that, Corbs, you're right.
Bulldogs 3-2-20, St Kilda 2 behinds. Approaching time on in this opening term for the boundary throw-in. Spills down to Steele of the Saints. Hand pass to Crouch. Kicks out of the defensive 50. Membry leaping up, trying to reel in the one-hander. Can't. Goes down with Hannon. Pack forms behind him. Picked up by Patton. His hand pass a turnover. McRae for the Bulldogs. There's a free kick here. It's going the Dogs' way, and racing away with it is Dale.
Alex Keith still sore behind players coming to the bench.
Kicks to centre half forward for Sweet. Puts it inside 50, but turns it over as Jamara caught wrong-footed. So Wilkie, the intercept mark, shares it with Sharman off the back flank.
And what's his kicking like out of that defensive 50? Not great, because it was smothered by Bailey Williams. Treloar gets involved, tries to handball. Eventually does get to Williams. Here's Dunkley, stripped of it by Steele. Great tackle. Still it falls the way of the Dogs. Garcia gets it. Handballs to Bontempelli. Then off to McRae. Usually really good with that left boot. And this occasion doesn't let him down. The little nuggety number 14, Riley West, had to put his body on the line, but boy did he want it. And he took a chest mark, and he's going to have a set shot. Another 45-degree angle, only about 40 metres out.
Only 45, but it was another dreadful turnover on the half-back to wing position.
Just before Riley West has a quick set shot. Hodgie, what's happening down there?
Not good news for Alex Keith, being taken straight to the rooms, a left leg injury.
West for his 10th goal in his 10th game this season. What a month he's had of footy. And the number 14 starting to feel like he belongs at this level. An explosive start from the Dogs. 4-2-26. St Kilda goalless. 2 behinds. It's a lead at 24 points, and there's just less than 4 minutes in this first term.
You're right about him, Cal. Yeah, the turnovers are horrible. Riley West, just each week he's getting better and better, and he's finding more of the footy. He's understanding too where he can have an impact on the game. That was a clever mark.
Oh, absolutely.
Just the ability to turn the body at the last second, protect where the ball was landing, and a nice set shot. They have that. I asked the question to Amit Baines before the game about some of the young players not making the jump. He's one he did mention, and he's right.
Yeah, too right.
Riley West is really finding his place at senior footy level.
Amit Baines, the Bulldogs chief executive, with his pre-game. He'd be happy with this start as English back in the middle, palms it down, rinse and repeat. McRae gets the centre break. Waitman looking to draw free, and he's going to get it.
Yep.
Bradley Hill with the front-on contact as the ball was coming in, and an illegal shepherd. And Waitman will get it at right half forward for the Dogs.
I don't know what he's complaining about. He's running, he's not even facing the ball, and he's pushing the player away from the contest. I mean,
Cody may have accentuated the contact, but you're right, Mick. He wasn't looking at the footy, and he was pushing. It was just silly by Hill, but as a small forward does, made sure the umpire spotted it.
He may be the tallest 177-centimetre player we've ever seen in the game, Cody Waitman. He's so good overhead. He knows how to draw a free. He's ordinarily pretty good on the finish, but not here. The ball doesn't lie. He's put it straight out of bounds on the full. Dogs by 24. Tim Hodges on the boundary. Hodgie.
It's a severe corky for Alex Keith to the left thigh, so he'll be a few minutes down in the rooms. And I'm not sure if the coverage captured it. Just a moment between coach and captain Luke Beveridge and Marcus Bontempelli after that last goal. They touched forwards. It was really weird, but just a very close embrace as Alex Keith walks back from the rooms. He's good to go. That left thigh heavily strapped.
Thanks, Hodgie. A moment for Ugle-Hagan where the ball sat anxiously up in the air and he almost was able to steal it and run into an open goal because the Saints defenders are shaky.
Well, they'll turn it over. There's not a...
They're nervous. They're kicking backwards, and on this occasion they're kicking sideways where it's Sharman marking. And now he's got it to Sinclair. This is Lingy's man, Sinclair.
Yeah,
He's
King was
given
put down. King will be a free kick here. Sorry, Cal.
I was about to have it say Kingy. You could put a line through his name as well because it was English that took the mark, but he illegally got rid of his opponent, King, as they were charging after the ball. So problem is King's got it in front of the Saints bench. High ball. He's asking them to run and leap, and Ed Richards says, yep, I'll do that. Smallest man in the pack. Got a really good run at it. That's what confidence does to you. So they share it from one side to the other, and now Jay Hannisson's got it. He wedges the kick up to Hannon, takes off on Steele. Handballs to Bailey Smith, delivers down the line to Liberatore. They're working it with ease here, the Bulldogs. Where's the Saints' pressure? It's gone missing so far as Liberatore moves it to Johannesson, who's kept running. He started this passage of play at half-back. Stops, props, looks inside, and Dunkley marks. Well, that is the easiest mark you're going to take inside 50. He could have hit up a couple of Bulldogs players, but in the end he went for the number 5, and Josh Dunkley pretty much directly in front, only 40 metres out. What's happening to the Saints? How do we describe what we're seeing at the moment, Mick Moldhouse, Cameron Ling?
Well, they're at the MCG. They're obviously watching Man U because they have not fronted up at all. There is unbelievable room for players to take marks inside the Bulldogs' front 50.
Josh Dunkley, 13-8 so far, every game this season. Now he's going to celebrate that before it even crosses the line. 2 fists for that one for Josh Dunkley. He enjoyed it, so do his teammates. And it's a bit of a stroll, Sunday stroll, Mick, is like you like to do, through a park at the moment for the Bulldogs. 5-2-32. The Saints are just 2 behind.
I think it's quite disgraceful. I've got to say, I've come here thinking this is the Saints 1 win away from being in the 8, and quite frankly the lack of intensity is just atrocious, and the delivery of the football is under 7 basketball side down your end, Cal. And I've got to say, the delivery inside the front 50, King's coming out, he's kicking, he might as well kick it to himself because they've got no taking a mark the way they're playing. Their forward line setup is amateurish.
It's not what we thought we were getting coming here tonight as English wins the hit out down to McRae, knocks it away to Crouch, who sockers it forward but straight to Treloar. He kicks back inside the centre square and Billings awake to it. Drifts in front of the Dogs, Ruckman English to take the intercept mark. Billings kicks out wide for Higgins. He marks between wing and half forward, puts it inside 50, but straight to the only Bulldog among 3 Saints, and Treloar takes the intercept mark. He goes short to Karmas. Still in the defensive 50, now to Gardner. He's got it in the back pocket, trying to hit up Hannon. Bit of pressure from Membry, forces the turnover. Membry looks back inboard. He's going to turn it over as well. Kicks it to Gardner. Again, there were 2 Saints, and he picked out the Bulldogs defender. And that is emblematic of the first quarter for the Saints. They go through it without a goal. A 5th goalless quarter this year for St Kilda, and it comes at a time where their season is on the line. In one of the highest leverage moments of the year, St Kilda virtually stayed in the locker room. 2 behinds, the Western Bulldogs 5-2-32, and the Dogs by 30 points at quarter time. Tim Hodges is on the boundary. Hodgie.
That was actually uncomfortable. I'm just sitting right behind the bench, and the players who were there got up to walk to the quarter-time huddle and they could hear their own fans boo them. That was, this has been a horrible 30 minutes for the St Kilda Footy Club, hasn't it, with so much to play for.
Dogs. It's the same people, though. It's the same blokes all year do the same things that let their team down.
A fortnight ago, in front of a sellout, they beat Carlton.
Yeah.
We've seen so often this year that you can get a real sense with St Kilda as to whether they're on or not in the first 5 minutes. We got that tonight and nothing's changed thereafter. The Dogs by 30 points at quarter time. Goals to Ugelhagen, Dunkley, West, Waitman and Dale. At quarter time, it's 5 goals to zip. The Dogs by 30 points. On ABC Radio, ABC News Radio and Sport Digital, this is Grandstand AFL.
ABC, your trusted source of accurate and timely emergency information.
We've had the ABC on basically all afternoon listening.
There's so much going on and getting news is a priority.
Well, I'm a fan of the ABC.
It must be love, love, love.
I listen to the ABC every day. I'm extremely grateful.
ABC Radio, reliable source for information.
On radio, on the ABC Listen app and the ABC Emergency website.
It must be love, love, love.
ABC, stay connected.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season. Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Gardner fires it back into the dangerous territory. Spoil comes, spills away Johannesson. Ugelhagen with the snap for the opener. Ugelhagen. Exactly what the doctor ordered. He needed a confident start. What a season for Cody Wakeman. 45-degree angle, only 25 metres out. He's been accurate, 24-8. And the sharpshooter continues.
Talor on the kick out again to Richards, drives it down to half forward, battle marks, kicks in the middle of the ground, it's intercepted, racing away is Bailey Dale, unmarked goal square and through it goes.
West for his 10th goal in his 10th game this season. What a month he's had of footy. And the number 14 starting to feel like he belongs at this level. Where's the Saints' pressure? It's gone missing so far as Liberatore moves it to Johannesson, who's kept running. He started this passage of play at half-back. Stops, props, looks inside, and Dunkley marks. Well, that is the easiest mark you're going to take inside 50. Josh Dunkley, 13-8 so far, every game this season. Now he's going to celebrate that before it even crosses the line.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Sounds of the opening quarter, the Western Bulldogs with the only 5 goals in the game, 5-2-32. They lead St Kilda 2 behind. Cameron Ling and Mick Malthouse.
Well, I'll try and start with the positive, and that is the Bulldogs and their approach to this game. It's exactly what the Bulldogs were looking for. Strong in the contest, excellent in the contested possessions, +8. Not too much mucking around with it, Mick. Not over use of the handball, which sometimes we're critical of the Dogs on. Mind you, the Saints probably allowed them to be not overly have to use the ball heaps. They got the ball inside forward 15 times and they kicked 5 goals too. Perfect. Huge ticks from Luke Beveridge and the Western Bulldogs. Goals from midfielders, goals from forwards and even goals from a running half-back in Bailey Dale. On the other side, though, St Kilda, they've tried to play a game style, Mick, of kick mark and possess the ball. 46 marks in a quarter of football to have only 11 inside 50s and 2 shots or 2 scoring shots. It's not an effective way of playing against the Western Bulldogs, especially when you're not highly skilled enough to pull off that type of way of playing football. Can the Saints now, at quarter time, completely shift away from that sort of game style? Or will it be too bedded down and they're just nowhere to go from here?
Well, the thing is, I say, Lingy, if you've come out and done that in the first quarter, you've practiced it.
Yeah.
So the worry to me is that you've got a side like St Kilda who generally, with leg speed, they're not too bad. Everyone in the competition knows that the Dogs' back line is their Achilles heel. One-on-one, they just can't cut it. If you bring the ball in there quickly, you're going to get it one-on-one. If you bring the ball around the Cape, and everyone knows you're bringing it around the Cape, then the defence of the Bulldogs, defence as in defending players, shift into the back line, help out the back 6, bring the ball out, hence no goals, not even challenging. So unless St Kilda pick their speed up of the entry, then the Dogs are going to Coast home.
Saints fans might remember May last year. The two teams played. The margin was 9 points at quarter time. At half time, the margin was 51 points. The Dogs won by 111 points. Aaron Norton that night kicked 5 goals.
Yeah.
There's no Norton here. And it's the Dogs by 30 points at quarter time. And it's got a bit of a smell about May last year about it.
Well, unless there's too many players out there that we mentioned before the game that you just put a big question mark over with the Saints. What are they going to do to improve themselves? And what do they do under pressure? And they are the same animal. They just give it up. They give the ball up. They toss in. There's seven tackles. I mean, really, seven tackles. You have more in the warm-up than 7 for the team.
All 5 goals for the Bulldogs coming from turnovers, so that's the story of the night. The Western Bulldogs 5-2, St Kilda 2 behinds. As we start the second quarter on Grandstand AFL, Tim English and Paddy Ryder to go at it. English, as he hits the deck, wins the head out. Down to Gresham, though, as St Kilda. Hand pass to Crouch, puts his head over it. He's locked up by Bontempelli. And a ball up inside the centre square. Tim Hodges.
Big Corbin, Alex Keith is back from the rooms for the Dogs. That left leg heavily strapped, but he's back out on the field. Still doesn't look 100%.
Saints soccer it forward from the restart, but straight to Dale, who can bang it inside 50, and Jamara caught out of position. Wilkie takes the intercept mark for the Saints. He comes wide with the kick to Battle. And Battle can go short to Billings. It's hard to believe 40 games ago, give or take, these two teams played in the elimination final against one another. Just 12 Dogs from that team playing tonight and 13 for the Saints as Billings goes long down the wing, and one of the new faces, Buku Kamas, takes the intercept mark and a pack on the wing.
Bailey Dale calls for it as he peels around behind his back. He accepts the handball, and then that beautiful kick to Bontempelli. Handballs to McRae. McRae to Bruce. Got caught underneath it. Now the foot race is on. The ruckman, Tim English, threatened to get there for a moment. Bradley Hill just handballs into space. Battle was able to pick it up, give it to Webster. Bouncing ball. It's tracked by Bailey Smith. Gives it to Treloar. Back to Smith. He's within range. He centres it instead, and Zach Jones marks it.
Well, that was only a fluke because they had 2 players set for that mark. It was a poor kick by Smith.
Jones with a long kick to the outer wing. Wanted Marshall. Goes over his head. Membry up to meet it. Tries to keep it alive. He's tackled and the ball's out of play with him, along with Adam Treloar.
You know what I'd love to see from St Kilda? So twice now they've taken an intercept mark in the corridor at half back. Both times they've chosen to go wide with the kick. I'd love them to keep it in the corridor. Actually try and test that Bulldogs defence a little bit by going straight at them rather than going sideways first and then trying to get through. Because your point at quarter time was a really good one, Mick. The Bulldogs' entire defensive formation shifts easily when you go sideways. If you can test them through the corridor, you might get them worried a little bit.
From the boundary throw, and we got a ball up. English down to Garcia. Or was it Garcia jams it on the boot? He's going to be pinged for deliberate. It's a bit of a tough call as the ball bounces out of play between wing and half back for the Saints, and Wanganeen Malira is going to take the free kick, City side of the ground. He goes long down the wing. It carries the pack. Dale waiting out the back for the Bulldogs. Hand pass to Libba. He links up with McRae against the boundary line. Kicks down to Jamara Ugle-Hagan. No mark. It's whacked out of play. Fist on it from Battle and a boundary throw-in between wing and half forward for the Dogs. Bulldogs by 30 points early doors, second term.
Well, I'd love to think that the match committee at the Saints have weighed up that first quarter and said to these players, you know, it clearly hasn't worked. Let's do something different.
So Ryder taps it down to Liberatore of the Dogs, to McRae. In a bit of a pickle as Bailey Smith gets it to McRae, back to Liberatore. Instead of handballing this time, he kicks. Meat in the sandwich was Waitman, almost marked it. Bontempelli flicked it up to Treloar. Over to Liberatore on his left, short. Marks Garcia. Garcia says, I want to slow down. I want to stop. In fact, the umpire says no play on. It didn't go the required distance. So he panics and he just goes for home, does Riley Garcia. And he's offline, and it's through for a behind.
Go quick here. Yeah, good. Sinclair from fullback went quick. You can catch them out now. They've just gone straight back to slow, short kick, hard to the boundary. That is playing into the Bulldogs' hands.
So Sinclair to Webster, and then Webster out wide to Highmore. He chips short to Wilkie.
You don't get too many times to really test a team by going quick, except on intercept marks and maybe a quick point like that. And St Kilda just don't want to test the Dogs.
Wilkie to Jones, and now Jones long with the contest. Kick down the wing. Max King works his way to the front. No mark. Spills to Gardner. Hand pass made it tough for Hannon. Just knocks it out in front of him, but he's retreating. Hannon collects, takes on the tackler at halfback. Got away with it. Hand pass to Karmas. Hand pass to Gardner. High up and under down the wing, and Williams and Jones underneath it, and Jones just knocks it out of play. So a throw in on the broadcast wing. Dogs by 31 points. St Kilda haven't kicked a goal 4 minutes into the second term.
And by going slow, you rely on them winning the contested possession. And that's Bulldogs Onewood. They're up by 11 already in that stat.
Marshall into the ruck. Crouch on all fours. Can't wedge it out. Paddy Ryder resting down in the forward line. He's got Buku Karmas for company. Karmas, who made a name for himself up forward for the Dogs as he started his AFL career, down back tonight. So it's a ball up. Half back here for the Dogs. Treloar emerges with it, kicks in the Waitman direction. Ugle-Hagan comes through, and then so too does Bradley Hill. He gathers, he gives to Wilkie, who gives to Webster, gave to Billings, standing start, and he rode the bump well. It was Williams who really applied plenty of pressure from behind to Billings, but he's been paid the mark. Just in front of the Saints bench. Left foot is just going to kick it high and look for King, who launched too early, and timing it to perfection was Ryder. He spins, he delivers looking for Membry, and his direct opponent Karmas cuts it off. Karmas reading it beautifully for the Dogs.
Shares it with Dale. He goes back to Treloar, again in defence tonight, goes short to Bontempelli. Marks at half back. He swings his kick out wide to Garcia. He has it on the defensive side of the wing. He's going to go back to Treloar. So the Bulldogs by 31 points. Saints looking for their first goal. 6 minutes into the second term. Treloar long kick from one back flank to the other, and Bailey Williams takes the mark. Back into a slow play. Williams trying to measure the kick to English. Missed it. Put it out on the full. Free kick for St Kilda, so they get a break here. They trap the ball in the front half.
Got to go corridor. Sinclair was running.
Hits up Highmore, who marks outer edge of the centre square. So St Kilda a chance to reload here. Highmore looks inside 50. Tough kick for Gresham. Treloar knocks it down to Libba. Hand pass away to Bailey Smith off half-back for the Bulldogs.
Smith again looking for Waitman and asking too much of him. He was one, and then there were two Saints. One was Mason Wood. He marks. Gives it to Jack Steele. Even the captain's going backwards. Steele kicks to Gardner, who marks uncontested. Right on centre wing. Dock side. And again, the high delivery. Karmas up high. Spoils it down. Big fist. Goes about 20 metres. Still rides and jumps and pounces onto it. Dunkley pounces on him. And his handball strays over the boundary line. So a boundary throw-in. Half forward here for St Kilda. Goals hard to come by. Delivery inside 50. Not great. English swats it down. Dunkley played for the push in the back at ground level. Wood's down there as well, but he's tackled. Gresham, haven't called his name too much so far tonight, and Liberatore, bottom of the pack. Tossed in the air. English couldn't quite give it to Libba. Marshall's handball was smothered by Bontempelli. He gets cleans hands to Hannon. Hannon now on the turnover. Kicks towards Johannison. Johannison's direct opponent Wilkie goes to ground, and then Johannison is caught. Great tackle by Wangani Millera. Still they go. Richards a high ball, and he's been paid the mark. Saints thought they had it for a moment, then they lost it. Richards delivers into that left forward pocket, and getting down low was Ugle-Hagan. A finger tipper right on top of the grass. He's taken the mark, and he's going to line up tight angle for his second goal of the night.
Should have been a free kick to St Kilda.
Every day of the week.
Wangani Millera just clear as day, holding the ball. Umpire missed it. Now the Dogs get the shot at goal.
He had the whistle up to his mouth.
Yeah, I thought he paid that.
Yeah,
so did I.
Everyone's thinking, oh, well, he's going to play this, surely, goodness.
So, Jamara Ugle-Hagan, it seems like everyone who loves footy's got an opinion about this young man. He's producing tonight. First goal of the evening. He kicks his second from a set shot in that left forward pocket for the left kicker. Left boot. And it's the Dogs by 37 points, 6-3-39. St Kilda stranded, goalless, 2 points. And we have gone 8 minutes, just a tick over in the second term.
I'll make a prediction.
Mick Malthouse.
I reckon by the end of this quarter, the Saints will have kicked 3 or 4 goals quickly. I don't think the Dogs are playing great football. They just need to have some faith in going to their forwards as opposed to trying to go lateral, and some stage they're going to wake up that they have to go forward and it'll come at a rush, because I don't think the back line of the Dogs is great. Saints are winning enough of the football, but they're just giving it straight back.
37 points, the Dogs lead. They've got the first 6 of the game. Back in the middle, Burns tackled by McRae, taken to the ground, and a ball up in the middle.
The only thing stopping me agreeing with you, Mick, is Bontempelli 13 disposals, Liberatore 13 and McRae 12. Their big 3 in the middle are having big nights.
English trying to knock it clear. Burns again grabs it. Smith's got him. We're going to do it again. We're going to pick out a free, holding the ball. It's against Burns and St Kilda. Gee, they won't be happy with that, the Saints fans, and Bailey Smith's going to get rewarded. A chance to go inside a crowded forward 50 again. Smith's just going to pull his kick out wide to Liberatore, who takes the mark, lays off a hand pass to Hannon. He steps his way around Wood. Hannon shoots goalward. Another one for the Dogs. They're humiliating St Kilda. The first 7 of the night for the Bulldogs. 7-3-45 St Kilda. 2 behinds. Not a single goal to show for a quarter and 10 minutes of footy. The Bulldogs by 43 points 10 minutes into the second. Mick Moldhouse, Cameron Ling.
Mick, it's okay if you call me a boring person, but just the little things excite me. Yeah. Liberatore's handball there, he delayed that just enough that the man on the mark was irrelevant and put it perfectly in front of Hannon, which meant that overlap run, which should have been easily covered and defended, meant it couldn't be defended, and Hannon has that easy run in, sells a nice bit of a balk and kicks a beautiful goal. Just the little things Libba does, gee, they're special.
Yeah, they are.
Sometimes they go unnoticed, but I love them.
They're blowing the Saints away, and we're only halfway through this second term. And there is Lingy's man, Liberatore, giving it off to Dunkley, and McRae delivering inside 50. A Saints player goes down there. Big hit, big pack flew. It was Gardner. He got up to his feet and then takes a diving mark, a relieving defensive mark. It's Battle, rather.
Sharman, I think it is.
Oh, but third time lucky. Thanks, Lingy.
That's all right.
It's the black boots through me. Sharman. So Sharman kicks towards the interchange gates. A big pack flies and it's spoiled over.
Dogs are getting an extra behind the ball, which they do, but I can't see how the Saints have utilised their +1 at all. I just almost suggest go to 6 and 6, forget the +1 and put pressure back on the Dogs.
Dogs by 43 points. Marshall in the ruck. He can't affect it though. At ground level, it's all blue jumpers. McRae off to Williams. High ball. Nice run and sit at it. And that is Sharman. Cooper Sharman, 43 for the St Kilda Footy Club. Takes a nice defensive mark.
Bradley Hill told to go. He races away past Riley West, who slips over, kicks to Membry in a tough one-on-one. Richards knocks it down. McRae clever, paddles it to Keith, and Keith is set upon immediately, so a ball up on the wing.
Well, you know what? We have a go at Hill all the time. That's the best kick he's kicked. At least it's gone and it hasn't been marked by Footscray or Western Bulldogs.
Doggies by 43. They've kicked the first 7 goals from the ball up. Sinclair, first clean touch, high up and under. Out to the wing. Williams wants to claim the mark and it'll be paid. Bailey Williams for the Bulldogs to his namesake, Bailey Smith. No relation. Smith swings it from one back flank to the other.
Solid,
Richards
Corbs.
takes the mark. He goes short, away to Hannon. Hannon down the high half forward. And McNeil there for the Bulldogs. He can go short too to Joe Hannison. So just peppering that launch pad. 70 metres out. Left half forward. Kicks inside the forward 50. Bruce out after it. Got a hand to it. No mark. Pack forms behind him. Crouch extracts it. Hand pass dangerous. Got it to Battle. He's spun around by West. Taken to ground. Umpire Donlan says ball up. Top of the goal square. 15 metres out from the Doggies' goal. They're looking for number 8. St Kilda haven't kicked one yet.
Sweet. Straight down to Cooper Sharman, who kicks it, and it's going to bounce over the boundary. Is that deliberate?
No. It was only going to one place.
That's right. Oh, God.
So boundary throw in here. We're inside 50 for the Bulldogs. 48 metres around from their goal. flicked back in. It's flicked down by Marshall to McRae, to English. McNeil gets his kick away before he's crunched. It's going to bounce out in front of Johannisen. The excitement machine wheels back around onto his right, and then he delivers to McNeil, getting down low. Had to get down really low, but the mark's been paid. And McNeil will now have a set shot. It's just line up. Who wants to go?
That is in the same spot, Kel. In the same spot. This is probably the fourth time in the same spot. And St Kilda players are higgledy-pickledy, and you would reckon that they would read the play and go, you know what, if he comes back on his right foot, he can only kick the ball into this spot, but I won't stand there.
So Lockie McNeil, 10 goals in his 11 games so far this season. A good return directly in front. Should be elementary. And it's not. It's offline. So that's their fourth blemish for the evening. 7:46, 2 behinds, 10 minutes gone, 14 minutes gone rather in the second term.
That's one of those edits that St Kilda will show in their meeting that will not be pretty for Zach Jones and a couple of others there. Because it was McNeil who gave the first kick out to Johannisen, and just all of them watched him go past. That's the attitude at the moment.
Sinclair marks the kick out and then goes longer half-back, and Karma standing in front of Membry takes the intercept mark. He looks inboard but turns it over.
Got to go. Turnover. Has to go fast.
Burns takes the intercept mark. He's not going all that quick. Kicks now in the middle of the ground. He wanted wood, and Bontempelli awake to it. Takes the mark for the Bulldogs right in the middle of Docklands.
That's the trouble, though, when you hesitate, Corbs. It gives the Dogs time to get there. Should have given a little handball receive and just moved it fast the moment he took that mark.
The Bon's using the full width of the ground. He goes out wide to Bailey Smith, who now rolls and kicks inside the forward 50. Righted. Good flight, the footy. No mark. Spills front and centre to McNeil. He snaps, but it's smothered. Now Wilkie for the Saints. Still at half back. Hand pass away to Gresham. Dancing through traffic. He goes back by hand to Membry. Lending a hand in defence. Lays off a hand pass to Webster. Defensive goal square. Kicks out wide and it bounces out of play. Umpire says deliberate. Not enough intent to keep it in, the Saints.
I think all their kicks go out in the full length, don't they, Saints?
So now Gardner with the free for the Dogs, and they're about to reload and pump it back inside 50. Gardner short the libber. 7 goals to zip. 16 minutes into the second term. Dogs all over the Saints. Kicks to the hot spot. Great pick-up. Wangadine Miller on the half volley. Just bangs it out of the defensive arc.
Because he's got absolutely no one to go to. He bombs it so long, it bounces on its tip and it rolls away from Karmas. Karmas had to gather. His kick was disappointing. It allows the Saints back in. Billings to Wood. They muck it up. They overpossess. Billings then eventually gives it back to a teammate who gets a free kick for too high. It was against Hannon.
The end result of you going lateral all night means all the players just keep hunting up the ground. So when you do eventually get a chance to go fast, you've got no one to kick it to. But
Ben Patton was taken high. He takes the free kick. He's kicked down the ground. Keith marks, but the umpire blew his whistle, says it'll be a free kick to King.
And no need for that free kick. It was silly.
So King moves it quickly into the pocket. And taking an uncontested mark is Mason Wood. Now, what does he do here, Mason Wood? Because he's a step or two in from the boundary, the right forward pocket at the northern end, and he went the set shot snap and hit the belly of the ball, and it was a disaster in that first term. Lingy?
Well, he can kick it into the man in the mark and be a better kick than his first one.
Lingy?
You go again with the snap, but who knows?
He's going the snap. Who knows? He kicks it over the man in the mark. It's a long bomb. Has it got enough curl on it? It's curly indeed. Mason Wood redeeming himself with the first goal of the evening for the St Kilda Football Club at the 17-minute mark of the second term. 1-2-8, they're on the board. The Dogs 7-4-46.
Well, that was a result purely of a clumsy free kick at half-back, a silly free kick at half-forward, and then a nice snapshot by Mason Wood, Mick. I don't think that was overly well built by St Kilda, other than a couple of free kicks, because, as I said before, the result of all their lateral, nothing, slow ball movement means that every single player is just gravitating up the ground to be in the defensive half. So when they do win it, well, I'm calling for them to go fast. They can't actually go fast because they've got no one
up there
to kick it to.
The forward line has just collapsed.
Ends a run of 7 straight Bulldogs goals to start the game. Back in the middle, Sweet wins it down to Bontempelli, goes racing away. Their prime mover kicks into the forward pocket, but Wilkie beats Dunkley to the drop of the ball and takes the mark.
Thank God for Wilkie.
What a player he's been. His 80th consecutive game from debut back in round 1 of 2019. He pumps it out of the defensive 50 straight back to the Bont, who takes the intercept mark for the Bulldogs. You know what's happening now. The Dogs going back inside 50 as Bontempelli plays on. Kicks it deep into the left forward pocket. Pack forms. Membry's back there. He leaps up and takes the mark for St Kilda.
Well, Membry back there simply means that he's decided to leave the forward line and go back for protection. But you've got 7 minutes left to kick 1 or 2 goals to maybe get back in the game. All you're doing is just kicking it straight back to the Dogs.
Membry to Wood, to Burns, and now a short kick to Butler in his 100th game. It's been nothing to celebrate so far. If the back flank kicks down the wing, Wood tries to knock it forward straight to Dale of the Bulldogs. Hand pass to Sweet to Karmas. He flares it out wide for Treloar.
Treloar's kick. The only Bulldog down there had to spoil in the end. It was Garcia and the Saints with the numbers. Patton. High ball. It's going to land on the broadcast wing. Treloar with the set. Sets himself and he takes the mark up over the back of Mason Wood. Everything falling the Dogs' way so far tonight. Short kicks onto McRae. He goes back where Gardner marks right on the edge of the centre circle, and then he can flick it wider still across to the city side of the stadium where Karmas marks in front of Ryder. Short ball out wide. Mark to the skipper in Bontempelli, who's been great. Helps set up this massive lead. Short to Waitman. It's all super short because so many players are free. It's like they've got an extra 2 or 3 players out there, the Bulldogs, doing this with ease. Waitman, well-weighted pass. English charges out, slipped through his fingers because of the pressure applied. Spills the way of McRae to Bontempelli, who can line up from 50. You don't give the Bont that much space because he'll punish you every day of the week. And he's celebrated with devil horns, I think they might have been. We haven't seen that before from the Bont. We'll have to look into that one. But the Bont's on song, his team's on song. 8-4-52. The Saints 1-2-8. The margin 44 points. And there's just under 5 minutes to play in this opening half.
So like the Texas Longhorns, Hook 'em horns. College football team.
I knew you love your English, your American sport. I knew you'd know what it was.
And Kel, to try and answer your query about why the Bulldogs had those 2 or 3 extra players, I'll tell you where the Saints' extra players were. Sitting back, deep in defence, doing absolutely nothing. Because English nearly marked the ball, first of all, so they weren't even really doing much in the air. And then Marcus Bontempelli on 50. It's a superb kick. It's a brilliant kick by Bontempelli. But St Kilda are just living back there and watching it go over their heads.
So 8 goals to 1 for the game. The Bulldogs all over the Saints. They get a rare centre break here as Gresham kicks out wide. And the mark's going to be taken by Higgins. Tough going up front for St Kilda so far tonight. He goes short back to Gresham, still on the city wing. So Doggies by 44 points, 8-4 to 1-2. A couple of their misses have been sort of set shots right in front for the Dogs, so it could be even worse. Short kick to Burns. Burns long into the pocket, thumped away at the back by Gardner. Still a live footy half forward for St Kilda. Billings is there. Hand pass back to Gresham. His 3rd touch in the chain. He kicks goalward right to the goal line. Gee, did Dale get a hand on it? The goal umpire isn't sure. We're headed upstairs to the yard, but this might be a major off the boot of Jade Gresham.
Dale doesn't think so, but then again he might be doing a con job.
So the umpire's soft call is touched. Gee, Dale almost looked a little casual trying to get there on the goal line.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it has touched his fingers.
We're watching the replay now. There's not a bending back of the fingers, is there?
None at all. None at all, Ian.
But maybe one of those frames shows a brushing. The fact it's been, as you said, Corbs, a soft call of touch.
I reckon they've got to give it a goal.
Wow.
Because there's no touch, no finger.
Is that one though, Mick? That frame right? I'll tell you, I know this isn't great radio, but we're watching the replay. I wonder if one of those fingers just slightly goes back. That frame there.
looking at this angle, we can see the ball is touched by the left hand.
The arc says it has been touched. If you could make that out in the background, so the decision is going to be upheld, and as a result, it'll be a behind for St Kilda.
Mind you, he did grab the ball and make out that he's going to kick it in, so he was pretty confident.
Behind for the Saints, they're 1-3. It's just their fourth score of the night. The Western Bulldogs 8-4. Doggies by 43 points, 24 minutes travelled in the second term.
And it's Bailey Dale with the kick-in duties. Faked one way. Went round the city side. It's well gathered down there by Richards, who gave it off to McRae. They've worked it quickly. Getting involved now is Dunkley. Assesses the options, brings the kick back in board. Garcia Marks.
Oh, look at Treloar. Corridor. Oh, they're not going to see him. Yep, just.
Kicks to centre half forward. Treloar's got it. Standing start. Crunch from behind. Dogs fans thought there should have been a free because he was hit from behind. And now the Saints through Gresham across half-back. They flick it out to Wood. Wood's got it to the defensive side of the broadcast wing. King marks, gives it to Gresham, peeling around his back. Stops, handballs back to Wood. We've seen a lot of stopping and starting tonight by the Saints. Pierces the ball. Higgins marks, wheels around. Going to land right on the edge of the goal square. Billings goes to ground, wanted the free kick. It bounced over his head and through for a minor score. Another opportunity wasted by the St Kilda Footy Club. Do they need to get angry, Mick? If you're a leader out there, Lingy, what are you doing? How can they lift? Because they're just flatlined at the moment.
Anyone who's backed St Kilda, not backed, but picked St Kilda tonight.
Well, that's everyone in this commentary box.
Exactly. But even that kick, that was 1-4. I don't know what Billings is not, he might win one-on-ones occasionally. He's not going to win 1-on-2, 1-on-3, 1-on-4.
Richards' ugly kick into the middle of the ground made it tough. The Bailey Smith knocks it away to the bottom. Hand pass to McNeil, who can do a full 180. Get himself out of traffic. Kick inside 50. Ugle-Hagan, no mark. Spills to Webster. Hand pass to Highmore. Goes by hand away to Billings. He goes back to Bradley Hill. Closed down, tackled by Johannesson. Tackled high. Oh, gee, and he's bailed him out on the free kick there, the umpire. Free kick for Bradley Hill in the back pocket. He looked like he was caught cold.
Yep, he gets caught that very frequently.
Bradley Hill, the let-off. Can exit defensive 50, kick for King on the wing. Competes, no mark, follows up, grabs the footy, sends St Kilda down to half forward. Billings, clean pick up, hand pass to Marshall. Ugly looking kick, bounces down to half forward. Higgins the chase on for it, collects 48 out, hand pass to King, does a spin, hand pass away to Billings against the boundary line, centering pass, hand on it from Bailey Smith. There's a free kick for a high tackle. Smith got, no, it's coming back to Steele.
Yeah, in the marking contest, I think calls with the spoil must have ended up just over the shoulder of Steele.
Well, that's a
soft.
That is soft.
That's a gift for the Saints.
Well, you've got to be able to spoil the ball, and there was no interference, was there?
No, that's not there. That one, Jack Steele. He doesn't care. He just desperately needs his team to get a goal and get something going.
They're at a premium for St Kilda. They'll get them however they're coming. Off a generous free kick. Jack Steele pokes it through for St Kilda's second. The problem is the Dogs have kicked 8 at the other end. 8-4-52 the Western Bulldogs. St Kilda 2-4-16. The Bulldogs by 6 goals. 27 minutes travelled second term.
Yeah, it seems a lot more than that, Corbin, too. The state of the play. And the stats don't necessarily show a great difference in possessions and that sort of stuff, but what it does show, if you cut it down and said how many times the Saints have given the ball up or haven't defended the loose football or just let players run straight past them, it's been such a disappointing one-on-one. The contested football is just almost non-existent, and the tacklings, I don't know what the tackles count is, it wouldn't be too many.
16-11 in the Dogs' favour.
11 tackles for the game so far. I mean, that's just abysmal.
AFL average is 54.
Yeah.
So Crouch, Jones, they win it. Tackled by a couple of Bulldogs. Jones is gone. Bailey Smith shoves him in the chest, grabs the Sherrin, and then handballs to the runner Bailey Dale, who hits it at full pace and then delivers over the head of Waitman in the end in the pocket. Sinclair's able to gather, handballs to no one in particular. Crouch goes to ground, Sinclair goes and gets it, wheels around, kicks bounces. Dale flicks it, only to as far as Zach Jones, who's crunched by Riley West. West with the desperation. West gritting his teeth. West getting angry, unlike any of the Saints players tonight. And it takes a while for Riley West to emerge with Zach Jones. They tangle a little bit. Tossed up in the air. Here's Bailey Smith. Dodges one, dodges two. Tackle affects the kick. Membry gets out. Able to get there. He's playing down back now. Handballs to Hill. All under the pump here. To Battle. Kick was low. Grubbers it to Steele. Back to Battle. Battle from a standing start. He's asking a lot again of Higgins, who's got to beat a couple. Everything they kick to is 2-on-1 here, St Kilda. Nothing's easy. Hill with the grab of the jumper on Hannon. Dogs fans wanted holding the ball. And I think there is a holding call here.
Yeah, holding the man. I think it'll go to Hannon,
Yeah.
As you called, Cal.
Yeah, it was a little bit late, wasn't it, Lingy? But it was there. Hill just tugging on the jumper. A little lazy as he tried to grab Hannon. Hannon with the free kick in front of the Dogs bench. He kicks to the pack. Backing back was Marshall. And that siren cannot come quick enough for Brett Ratton and the St Kilda Football Club, because that was a disastrous opening half of football and improved ever so slightly in the final stages of that opening half. The Bulldogs dismantling the Saints 8-4-52 to St Kilda 2-4-16, a margin of 36 points. The goal kickers for the Bulldogs, Ugle Hagan set the tone with the first of the night. He's got 2. Waitman, Dale, Dunkley, West, Hannon and the Bontempelli leading from the front, putting on a masterclass this evening. 20 disposals and 1 goal, 1 to half-time. For St Kilda, well, at the 8-minute mark of that second term, Mick Malthouse said they've improved. They should be able to string a couple finally after a goalless opening term. They did just that with goals through Wood and their captain, Jack Steele. But it's a 6-goal margin and the lead to the Dogs at half-time.
Second half last week, St Kilda were outscored 11 goals to 3 by Fremantle. In the first half here, they've been outscored 8 goals to 2. So I didn't major in math, but you throw that all together and that's 19 goals to 5 across their last 4 quarters of footy. They've been outscored by 14 goals. St Kilda with their season on the line. The Dogs into a little bit of a jog as they make their way down the race, and St Kilda walking off to our right at the southern end of the stadium. The Dogs by 36 points at half-time. Mick Malthouse and Cameron Ling in what was billed as a virtual elimination final. Felt like it was over as quick as it began.
Yeah, it was, and it was built off the Bulldogs' strength, their outstanding midfield. The Saints gifted them some goals early on, but clearances, Mick, when you think of the Dogs, you think of clearances and contested footy in that midfield. 21 to 10 in a half of footy. Bontempelli's had 20 touches and kicked a goal. Jack McRae's had 18 touches. Tom Liberatore's had 17 disposals, and Bailey Smith in his first game back, the 16 possessions. That midfield is just so strong for the Western Bulldogs that the Saints haven't had an answer. When you look at the Saints with Marshall and Ryder as the ruckman, Jack Steele, players like Jade Gresham, players like that, they shouldn't be obliterated like that.
No, not at all.
So is it an effort thing?
I think it is.
Or is it a little bit of the way that the Saints are playing is just gifting the ball back to the Dogs too much? Or do you think it's back to the real fundamental of 100% pure effort?
Well, we know the Dogs need those players up running, and they are up running. We know the Saints need Jack Steele, Gresham and these sort of players to be at their best. I won't even put Crouch in there because I just don't rate him. So it's 2v whatever, and the Dogs have got more. But what would concern me as a coach most of all, outside of the game structure is just falling apart, is the lack of real intensity. What did we say, Corbin? Was it 11 tackles for the
11 tackles.
11 tackles. You're the side that's chasing.
They got the 12 in the end.
Okay, they've got 12 for the half a game of football. I see. It doesn't matter if you can bring your kids up here, Lingy, and just say, "Give us an effort." You're going to get beaten, but give us an effort.
Yep.
The Saints are sitting 1 game clear of the Dogs at round with 6. There's 5 after today, so six games to go. Fighting for a place in the 8. And you just look at this and you go, and I look at Brett Ratton's face and you just see it all. It's bitter disappointment. he doesn't, he won't know where to turn to here because his captain has been. I'll go through the list. Zach Jones is not worth a coal pie.
4 disposals, I think, in a half.
Well, he's not worth a coal pie. Crouch getting slaughtered. Bradley Hill must, when he gets it, please hand pass it off. Don't kick it because you're giving it straight back to them. Butler, no pressure. Higgins, no pressure. Membry, just not getting the opportunities. Wood, I've just got my doubts about. I know he kicked that goal, but he doesn't get enough possessions. He doesn't put enough pressure on, and they've been held together. That 8 goals could be 12, 13 if it wasn't for a couple of the backline players who unfortunately have gone into a trap of losing faith with players in front of them and therefore going ring-a-rosy by kicking it to themselves because they are not backing the players in front of them. When you're 6 goals down, it's no simple solution, but one is let's get some pressure around the ball for a start off, throw some other players in, but when you do, trust your forwards, but keep 6 forwards in position because at the moment they're collapsing in on the centre, which is collapsing in on the back. So when it does come out, and don't forget the Saints have had more possessions, I think, than the Dogs or thereabouts.
Near enough, 19 fewer.
19 fewer, which is nothing. But right now, they're not trusting any of their teammates.
Can I add though, Mick? I'm hearing everything you're saying, agreeing with everything you're saying from a St Kilda approach, but I think it's the collective too of the way that they're playing, which brings the coaches in, because the odd time where they were able to put enough pressure on and created central turnovers at about half back, even in the centre square, they straight away looked sideways and lateral. And that's got to be a coach thing and a trained thing throughout the week, where there were opportunities on those few occasions to go flying back through the middle of them, and they just didn't do it. So the way they're playing is wrong.
Yeah.
Their endeavour and intent and intensity and basically the fundamentals is way, way off. And the Bulldogs are on in that area. The Bulldogs are sharp in the middle of the ground. Their big guns turned up to play. Excellent in the clearances, and they're giving their forwards great looks. That's why the scoreboard reads exactly what it is. The Saints got everything wrong in that first half of footy.
Yeah,
it's amazing that, I mean, I know it feels like we're focusing on St Kilda, but it was...
Well, we have to.
It was more bad Saints than good Dogs. If it was one or the other.
He's right. The main players that the Dogs need turning up all turned up.
Of course.
But we know, we've sat in this box before, and we keep saying, lamenting the back line of the Dogs. King's got no hope.
Yep.
Because he's a kick and a half behind the play every time because they don't go near him. They've got no faith in him or Membry or Paddy Ryder up there.
There's 3 scoring sources. It's from a kick out.
Yeah, only 3.
It's from a stoppage or it's from a turnover. First quarter, the Dogs kicked 5 goals, all from turnover.
Yeah. Yep.
So the Saints just gifted them the brilliant start, and then the Bulldogs did what they had to do in the second quarter and played really good, solid football, and the Saints just couldn't adapt at all.
Well, interesting enough, 3-2 to 2-2. And you'd say, well, that's a close quarter. But we know that the gap in that second quarter was probably 5 or 6 goals. But the Dogs didn't take full toll. And that's because the back line is holding up. But the back line's got as much fault to play because when they get the football, they go sideways. I'm totally with you, Lingy. You practice how you want to play. And if you want to go sideways against the Dogs, heavens, they've had 16 chances to look at what brings the Dogs down. It is contested football, and is there a relatively weak, tall backline. And you've got King, who unfortunately they put too much weight on him, but therefore he's up there, and they're playing the 2 ruckmen. So one will play forward in Paddy Ryder, who's a goal kicker, Marshall in the middle, or vice versa. They just lack faith in one another. It's a bizarre situation.
8 goals to 2 at half-time. It's the Western Bulldogs who lead by 6 goals. It was billed as a season shaper, certainly a virtual elimination final, and the Bulldogs have answered the call. St Kilda have been nowhere near it. It is half-time at Docklands. Let's see what we get in the second half on ABC Radio, News Radio and Sport Digital. But first, let's see what's happening in the ABC newsroom.
ABC News with Satya Weinstein. South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas is the latest leader to confirm he'll lobby for the restoration of pandemic leave payments for workers without sick leave at Monday's National Cabinet meeting. A snap meeting's been called as the third wave of the Omicron variant sweeps across the country. The $750 self-isolation payment stopped at the end of June as per arrangements under the Morrison government. Acting Premier Susan Close says the SA government sees merit in bringing the scheme back.
We do see a case for ongoing pandemic leave support just during this next phase for those people who don't have sick leave.
The number of people in hospital with COVID-19 in Western Australia has reached another record of 333. It comes as WA reports 6,458 new infections and just over 35,000 total active cases. Similar hospitalisation figures were last seen during the peak of the infectious wave in May when there were around 90,000 cases. Australian Medical Association President Dr Omar Khorshid says the increasing proportion of cases being admitted to hospital is likely due to poor testing rates.
As people are more and more sick of the pandemic and sick of the impact on our lives, I think compliance with the requirements has dipped, and it's highly likely there are many, many more cases in the community than the numbers that we're seeing.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping has made an unannounced visit to the Xinjiang region, where his government's accused of human rights abuses against ethnic Uyghurs and other minorities. It's thought to be his first visit to the region since 2014, when he ordered an attack against what he said were terrorists in the region. During his latest visit, official footage shows Mr. Xi being greeted by cheering and attentive crowds. The latest figures from China, meanwhile, show economic growth has sharply slowed there as COVID-19 restrictions continue to limit business activity. Here's the BBC's Stephen McDonnell.
China's strict COVID policies are hitting virtually all parts of the economy. From April to June, the country's GDP grew by only 0.4% compared to the same period last year. Official data shows a pattern of dramatic contraction, with the economy growing by only 2.5% for the first half of the year, well short of the government target of 5.5%. In March and April, major cities including Shanghai were locked down, with tens of millions of people confined to their homes. China is the only major economy still pursuing a zero-COVID total elimination approach for each outbreak of the virus.
Global leaders are warning against hoarding goods within national borders as millions of people around the world face food insecurity driven by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The leaders from the group of 20 advanced economies are meeting in Bali. Moscow's blockade of the Black Sea is stopping grain and oil from being exported to Ukraine's ports, triggering global shortages. US Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen says G20 countries need to cooperate to fill the gaps caused by the crisis in Ukraine.
We don't need new institutions. What we need is robust coordination, knowledge sharing, research and development, financing and action.
A man who was wrongfully convicted of murdering US civil rights leader Malcolm X has filed a lawsuit seeking nearly $58 million in compensation. The African-American activist was shot by 3 gunmen while preparing to address a New York crowd in 1965. Muhammad Aziz spent 20 years behind bars for the killing, and prosecutors have since discovered new evidence to absolve his conviction. He's now suing for malicious prosecution, denial of due process and government misconduct. Extreme heat alerts have been issued in parts of the United Kingdom, with temperatures in the southern and central UK expected to soar above 40 degrees over the coming days. Experts are urging people to stay indoors and keep hydrated amid deep concerns there could be cases of heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Scientific officer from the World Meteorological Organization, Dr. Lorenzo Labrador, says climate change is making heat waves more frequent, and he's urging people to follow simple steps to avoid health issues.
So they're supposed to stay indoors, stay hydrated, and expose themselves, not exert themselves outdoors, and basically keep cool as much as possible. That's as much as we can do.
Early childhood educators in Victoria will be eligible to receive thousands of dollars in bonuses as part of a state government scheme to encourage people to work in hard-to-staff areas. Educators willing to move to high-priority locations across the state can receive $9,000, while people who relocate more than 200 kilometres can take on another $2,000 to $8,000. ABC News.
Hello, Costa here.
gardening is great for the whole family. And I want to tell you something that will get the kids in your life growing. It's my brand new podcast, Gardening Buds. Everything a kid needs to know to make their own garden grow. Whether you've got a big backyard, a balcony, or a little pot on a windowsill. Join Kaylee and I for Gardening Buds. Out now on the ABC Kids Listen and ABC Listen apps.
If you love sport, we've got the podcast for you. ABC Sport Daily, it's your daily sports conversation.
West Coast has had a horror season. They're going to finish bottom 2 or 3 on the ladder.
There's some kind of romance about it, isn't it? The idea of just being the fastest man or woman.
And how many times does this have to happen before we accept that, there is something different? There's just something different up there, and it's something that I'm sad to say New South Wales just doesn't have.
ABC Sport Daily. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season. Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
So, Jamara Ugle-Hagan, it seems like everyone who loves footy's got an opinion about this young man. He's producing tonight.
Chance to go inside a crowded forward 50 again. Smith's just going to pull his kick out wide to Liberatore, who takes the mark, lays off a hand pass to Hannon. He steps his way around Wood. Hannon shoots goalward. Another one for the Dogs.
He's going to snap. Who knows? He kicks it over the man and the mark. It's a long bomb. Has it got enough curl on it? It's curly indeed. Mason Wood. Waitman, well-weighted pass. English charges out, slipped through his fingers because of the pressure applied. Spills the way of McRae to Bontempelli, who can line up from 50. You don't give the Bont that much space because he'll punish you every day of the week.
They're at a premium for St Kilda. They'll get them however they're coming. Off a generous free kick. Jack Steele pokes it through for St Kilda's second.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Positive spin for St Kilda. They've kicked 2 of the last 3 goals in the game, but the Western Bulldogs kicked the first 7 to start, and as a result, the Dogs lead by 36 points. It actually has felt like much more than that, and at times was on the scoreboard. They got it out to 44 points at one stage late in that second term. It is half-time. This is Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio, Sport Digital, and, of course, you can stream us through the AFL app. Just look out for the Match Centre. Click on that and the listen icon. And, of course, the ABC Worm, and you're away to any game that is played across the weekend. The Bulldogs 8-4-52, St Kilda 2-4-16, a 36-point lead for the Bulldogs. Marcus Bontempelli has led the way with 20 disposals and a goal for his Dogs. Now, in other codes tonight, the NRL, the Sharks have defeated the Cowboys, so somewhat of an upset there, 26 points to 12, so North Queensland going down in the early game. And it's half-time, or early in the second half, in the second game, Parramatta and the Warriors, of course, from New Zealand. It's Parramatta who lead it by a try at this stage, so 10-6, the Eels over the Warriors. There's a big game of association football being played across town, so we're at the Docklands underneath the roof. And at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, a crowd of around 75,000 expected tonight for the Melbourne Victory and Manchester United clash. And the Red Devils lead it 2-1 over Victory at the moment. So Scott McTominay scored in the 43rd minute. And I think it's Anthony Marshall scored in the 45th minute or just before Martial, just before half-time. See, I sound like such a soccer person now. So back-to-back goals for United. They scored twice in 3 minutes after Chris Economides scored the opener inside the first 5 minutes for the Melbourne Victory. I don't know what language I just spoke. I think I was speaking soccer or something. I'm now bilingual, but Manchester United lead the Victory 2-1.
You're always my go-to, though, with American sports, Corbs. You can pronounce Giannis' surname in the NBA, so I give you full credit. Yeah, don't worry about the odd little hiccup there.
The European stuff I struggle with a little bit more, but it's I know it's a big deal. Manchester, I used to live with my old housemate was a Manchester United fan, knows all the songs that they carry on with, so I'm sure he'll be very excited with that result. 2-1 United over Melbourne Victory, half-time there in the soccer. 36 points the margin here. We've been talking about St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs. By the way, Mickey, you're a well-travelled man, experienced coach. Did you ever have anything to do with Sir Alex Ferguson?
You know I did.
Oh, no. See how I just leave it.
Yeah, you know, and you're trying to get me to make a big head.
No, I play it down like I don't know that much, but I do remember when there's crossovers between the two sports.
It's written into Corbett and my contract that we have to talk you up on air.
Well, Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, all I've done is pumped you up with your coaching. I can whip that away from you very quickly just by telling you that you're zipping one.
Seriously, though, that would have been cool, so having a chance to catch up with Sir Alex Ferguson. I mean, you would have been at the height of your coaching powers, and he was coaching probably the most famous club in the world at that particular stage.
It was.
Yeah.
I've got to say very briefly, because we haven't got a lot of time to get around the positions, but I went across there and I had been teed up through West Australian contacts, really good blokes. So he's walked in, got the slippers and dressing gown on. Someone's giving him his breakfast. He's sitting at the table, and he spoke to me, and I thought, the Scottish accent, I can't understand him. And the phone rang, and he picked it up, and he went right through it. And I slowly picked it up, and I said to him, "Oh, that was the media." And he's gone, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Because you kept on denying what he wanted to print." And he goes, "You're one of mine." And I thought, we've made it to each other. So we had a very good week with him. Went down, had breakfast and dinner, and invited to the game, and introduced me to 4 or 5 young players. I said, "I think these blokes might make it one day." They're out of our academy. There was Scholes, there was Giggs, there was Beckham, and a couple of others. And I said, "Oh, that's good." And that's your foundation where you bring we bring our kids through. And they went, "Go on, you meet this bloke here." And it was the Frenchman, what's his name?
Eric Cantona.
Eric Cantona.
That's what I was going to say.
Signed a couple of autographs. We've still got the autographs at home.
That's awesome.
And of course,
was it the Nevilles as well? Was it
the Nevilles? Yeah. The Nevilles. They both had this thing that worked for them.
It's half-time here at Docklands. Our focus on the Western Bulldogs and St Kilda. It's the Dogs by 36 points as we enter the second half. You're with Kelly Underwood on Grandstand AFL.
Do we have to? I'd rather listen to mixed stories, given that opening half we had. You love it in the media box when all the journos and commentators go out and get something to eat and drink, and everyone's rolling their eyes after that opening half. So the good news for Saints fans is it can only get better. Ryan Burns has got the footy in his hands and he's delivering right on the arc where Jones couldn't get there in time, and he lays a late bump on Hannon, who marked. Mitch Hannon back in the team tonight, and he started as a defender, but he has kicked a goal. Dogs by 30 points at quarter time. And by 36
that is
at half time.
That was in the first tier.
He's kicked looking for Riley West, who marked it uncontested, but as you heard from Hodgie and Mick Moldhouse, he's marked it in row A, and then his kick's gone straight to the Saints defender in Battle. So Battle, can we have a better start to this second half? What has Brett Ratton said to this team at half-time? To Webster, all across half-back, Membry, who's been deployed down back, and now to Sharman. All very cautious with their kicks. Sinclair, Short, Wanganeen, Millera. On the city side dock, he's got it. He goes short as well. This is Higgins. And now the long bomb. The target down there was King and Ryder. Neither could take it in the contest. They all flew up and it went over the boundary line. So just a slow start to this second half. It is a 36-point margin. The Saints were goalless in that opening term. 2 for Ugle-Hagan. Otherwise, all single goal kickers.
From the restart, comes away with Burns, who's slung around, got a hand pass away, but it's a turnover. Garcia onto it, centre half back for the Bulldogs. Lifts a hand pass over Webster. To the run of Treloar through the middle of Docklands. Beautiful service to Ugle-Hagan. Can't complete the mark. Spills through to Bontempelli. Gives it back to Jamara. Sells a dummy to try and pop through his third. Jamara, what a finish. He's kicked the first of each quarter. And the Western Bulldogs pick up where they left off. Jamara Ugle-Hagan having one of his best showings so far at AFL level. He's got 3. And the Bulldogs to 9-4-58. St Kilda 2-4-16. Dogs back out by 7 goals 3 minutes into the third.
He doesn't yet have the strength through his shoulders to take the marks with a bit of contact coming from behind. So he spilled one he probably should have taken and will take in the years to come. But he's follow-up sharp at ground level now, Mick. I think he's got
much
that
better.
second and third effort now.
Yeah.
And his polish in front of goal tonight has been excellent. A really classy finish.
You almost... I don't want to keep bagging the Saints, but it always looks like they're running through treacle. They just haven't got that explosiveness because Dogs are running away from them. And that's what's happened there.
He's kicked 3 goals So he matches his PB of 3 and they win it out of the centre again. Dunkley with a high ball. Trying to read it in the air was McNeil, the smallest player. Quick hands. Garcia to Bontempelli. He stepped back inside on his trusty left and Sinclair and Neil were onto him. Still he fights and scraps. He fires out a handball. Garcia is going to swoop onto it. Garcia with the snap and Garcia with the finish. But it was all because of the Bontempelli desperate at ground level. And Riley Garcia, who's playing to retain his spot in this team, has been terrific tonight. And it's a game-high 48-point lead. 10-4-64, St Kilda 2-4-16.
Well, every day of the week, every game of the year, that's a free kick against Bontempelli.
Was I missing something there? That had to be a holding the ball.
It has to be incorrect disposal, they call it.
Yeah.
And it was just dreadful.
Watching the replay there.
He's got it.
Oh, mate, was he maybe not tackled? That's the only thing, and knocked free? What's this, Mick?
Yeah,
maybe just knocked free. His follow-up effort was excellent, as you called, Cal, to get it going again, but it looked like holding the ball to me.
Yeah.
Mick.
Well, they play those all over the ground because you're in control of the ball and you lose the ball. Bad luck.
As Cal said, new game high, 48 points the margin. Free kick for a high tackle in the middle. It's going Liberatore's way, so another centre break coming up for the Western Bulldogs. A hot start to the third as Libber kicks out wide to half forward, competing Williams. No mark. Goes to ground. Sinclair keeps his feet, wins the footy. Chips short to Membry.
Yeah, well, they haven't changed, Lingy, because every time they've taken a mark, they've stopped and propped, and there's been no play on. There's no run from behind.
Short kick back to Sinclair. He kicks down the wing, missed his intended target. Liberatore onto it. Hand pass away to Richards. Gives it to Williams on the logo. Dogs back with it. Hand pass to Johannison. Kicks wide. And the mark taken by Dunkley between wing and half forward. Bulldogs by 48. They've kicked 2 quick ones to start the term. They look inside 50 again. English got hands to it. No mark. The pressure from Marshall. Spills to Steele, hand pass to Sinclair of the Saints and a short kick to Burns, who marks at half-back for St Kilda.
Burns goes out wide to a one-on-one. It was King and Gardner. Gardner swaps it over. It's been a tough night for King.
It's a tough night, Cal, when you've got a 10-metre break on your opponent and the ball gets sat on your head, so you have to stop, prop and wait for that same opponent who you've just beaten to land a knee right in your kidneys and spoil the footy.
6 goals in his last month, Max King, so you can understand why he's frustrated. 2 last week, 3 the week before. Goalless, and then 1. And he hasn't troubled the scoreboard tonight, but it hasn't really got anywhere near him. He's had to come up the ground to get it. So there's a ball up on the outer wing, city side wing. And we'll restart and go again. English flicks it down to Dunkley. His kick was smothered by Steele. Handballs back to Wanganeen Miller. Tries to spin out of trouble. He spins, little fancy footwork, pirouette over the boundary line. So a throw in on the outer side. Tangling in the ruck, Marshall and English. Marshall uses his body well, palms it down. Jones tries to break the tackle, gets his handball away. Wanganeen Miller into Webster, whose kick is smothered. Bailey Williams over the boundary line. They just haven't been able to get out of first gear tonight, St Kilda, and Nick Moldhouse really hit the nail on the head a few moments ago to say there's no run from behind. There's just no running, no attacking flair whatsoever tonight.
They've trailed 9 games this year, St Kilda, at half-time. Surprisingly, they're actually the 4th best third-quarter team in the league, the Saints. So after they've got a bit of a razz at half-time, they have responded throughout the year. And the stoppage, Treloar sends it inside 50, but Wilkie has been one of their best, takes the intercept mark. And goes short to Crouch, and Crouch out wide to Wanganeen Miller.
But now they're living on the boundary again.
Well, Crouch marked that ball 55 metres out, just off the centre square, and kicked it to the fence. And this is back in the same spot, and Crouch is still standing next to him, want to cheat football.
Short to Membry, short to Sinclair, short to Webster, so still across the half-back line, St Kilda. 8 minutes into the third. Dogs by 48. They've led all night, having kicked the first 5 goals. A long kick out in the King direction. Fist comes from Gardner into the path of McRae. He has it stolen from him, though, by Crouch. Tumbles a kick back down to half forward for St Kilda. Karmas onto it. And feeds a hand pass away to the Bont, who's been terrific. He gives it to English, kicks in the middle of the ground for Bruce, who takes the mark alongside the centre circles.
Oh, the Bulldogs fans would love to see him get a goal in this second half. He hasn't got there yet. Bruce doing some work in the centre to Hannon. Hannon then stabs the pass. It was brilliant. And charging out on the end of it is Riley West.
4. So I've kind of...
I got to 5, Mick.
5? Yeah.
5 St Kilda defenders.
Yeah, 5-2. And he's able to work the ball and mark it. He's a 1. It says 185. I reckon he's cheating. He'd be under 180. And he's marked the football.
He's got the floppy fringe. He's got a bit of the Toby Greens about him. Kicked already a goal tonight has Riley West. Directly in front, and that was never a chance. He hooks that badly and misses to the left-hand side.
Well built, solid, isn't he? Yeah. He's actually put a bit more weight on, which probably gives a bit more oomph around the fallen ball.
One of 6 father sons on the Dogs list, Riley West.
Dogs by 49 points.
Wilkie now doing the kick-out duties, takes some ground and then goes along the wing. Ryder flies, no mark, spills to Billings. Hand pass out wide to Wanganeen Millera. Gives it back to Billings. Kicks off his right peg, back to half forward. Marshall crashes the pack, spills down to Gresham, charging through. Hand pass missed. Jones about a metre away. Made it tough for him. Gresham goes back in to retrieve it. Hand pass away to Burns, who can kick inside the forward 50. Flying King, no mark, spills through to Wood. He's gang tackled immediately. Kick came from Patton, in fact, inside the forward 50. And we'll have a ball up here, 25 metres out from the Saints goal.
It's an ugly inside 50. And I felt sorry for the St Kilda player right in front of us with the football because he had no one in front of him outside of 4 Dogs players.
So ball up right out the top of the goal square for the Saints. It's hacked out of there by Bulldogs defender. Sinclair's going to pounce. He'll want to get it on his right boot and centre it, and Butler's mark. Did it go the required distance? Well, umpire says it did. So Dan Butler in his 100th game will have a set shot.
It was a clever little kick from Sinclair.
Oh,
just that. Not outside of his foot, but not a banana. Still a drop punt. Just found Butler.
I don't know if he's good for this league. I'm not 100% sure he's a real good distance kick. Well, he's going to have to kick this 48 metres. I don't know whether he's good for it.
48 metres on a tidy shingle, but he's on the right side for a right footer. He's got the stutter step approach. Nick Moldhouse, I think you're all over it. He didn't have the distance. It was touched on the line, and I'm not sure about that stutter step approach. Goodness me.
Dogs by 8 goals as Dale on the kick out finds McRae. He swings it wide to Bailey Smith. Off half-back, sweeping hand pass to Treloar. He's out of room and a boundary throw-in on the City wing.
But how's the difference from the kick out there? The Bulldogs went straight away. Okay, it didn't work out perfectly. It's still a boundary throw-in. But they at least tested St Kilda. Down the other end of the ground, we see the Saints get a quick point and opportunity to bring it in. They're just going slow and sideward still.
11 minutes into the third, Dogs by 8 goals from the boundary throw-in. Steele put his head over it and then was tackled high, trying to dispose of the footy, so earns the free for St Kilda. Short kick to Gresham in the centre square. Looks inside the forward 50. Billings flies for it, no mark. Thumped away by Keith, down to the bottom. Tackled by Billings. Forces the turnover. Jones for the Saints. Hand pass to Membry. Shoots off a single step right to the behind line, and Gardner just whacks it through. A rush behind for St Kilda.
There's just no organisation out there at all, is there? It's just...
No. It's just rush. And one of the most lying, cheating stats that I've seen all night is 65% efficiency by the Dogs and 68% by the Saints. It does not tell you the truth because most of that is down the back end where they just keep kicking it ringy-rosy and can't help but hit it.
So the Dogs carry it round the City side and the kick has been able to hit up English, who marks in front of Ryder. Hasn't been the brilliant Paddy Ryder that we've come to really appreciate at times this year. English mucks around with it, gives it to McRae, back to English. They've got themselves out of a tight spot here. Liberatore's on the end of it, a high left boot, can't be marked in the air. Richards breaks the tackle, gives it off to West to the top of the goal square, but Membry's there and marks in front of Waitman. Now they go. Membry to Billings, who stops and then decides he does like what he sees further up the ground. A long lead by Butler.
Keep going. Give King a one-on-one.
Butler marks in front of the Dogs bench and he ignores Lingy. He just stops.
And Marshall.
He kicks backwards.
And Marshall. There's
Gresham.
Marshall and King with...
Backwards to Wilkie. Sideways. Marking Sharman. Now round the other side to Sinclair. Can he start something for them? To Wood, whose kick was rather casual and lazy. Put Highmore in all sorts of bother. Coming in was McRae with the tackle. And what was a possession ball has suddenly become a 50-50 ball. And a pile up. And it'll be a ball up at half forward for the Saints. It's hard to watch. Tim Hodges is in the best position in the house. Hodgie, are you watching?
Oh, we'll get back to Hodgie in just a moment. The ball up here, half forward for St Kilda. We're going to do it again. Tim Hodges.
Guys, it was uncomfortable at quarter time, and I think it's just getting ugly, to be honest. With the Saints fans are just, they're going to leave soon, I think, or they might stay and spray their team the way this is going. It's so ugly.
The ball up, Ryder gets a kick out wide to Gresham, who's been busy in the quarter. Spins a kick inside 50. Trelaw spills the mark. Burns had it, coughs it up too. Hand pass went to Johannisen. Gives it to Bontempelli. Kicks the Bulldogs out of the defensive arc, and English hits up to take the mark. Defensive side of the wing. Bulldogs by 47. Midway through this third term. They've led wire to wire. English closed down. Running at him, Highmore forces the errant kick, and English puts it out on the full. So Saints keep it in their front half, at least for now. And Jack Steele in the bright orange boots, the All-Australian from the last 2 seasons, is going to get the free here. Looks inside the forward 50. Down in the Max King direction. He can't quite finish the mark with pressure from English. And a boundary throw in half forward for the Saints, almost right on the junction of the 50-metre arc. A 47-point lead for the Bulldogs, 15 played in the third.
Percentage in the last quarter becomes important as well for the Bulldogs as they hope to scrape into September action. So the boundary throw-in cleared the 2 rucks. Sinclair pounces on it. It's a bouncing ball, top of the goal square. There's a fumble from Gardner. King is hot on his hammer. King senses something. He's got his head over the ball, and relieving the pressure was Hannon. Scoops it up and then kicks long. Marking was Wilkie. His first option is to go back, and now still goes sideways. Marking in the centre of the bullseye there is Highmore, and he flicks it wide still to Mason Wood. Wood now on his left. Just a thumping kick into the pocket. King from behind. King rises high, and the umpire says the mark has not been paid. And the Saints fans, well, if Hodgie described them as angry before, they'll be absolutely filthy with that. It'll be a ball up in the pocket. Left forward pocket here for the Saints. Creeping closer to goal. Sweet down to Liberatore. He's kicked to Hannon. Quick hands to McRae. McRae then kicks towards Waitman. Instead of marking, he just spoils that over the boundary line.
Well, that's a great setup, Lingy. Great setup for the Dogs. But in that situation, you need 2 or 3 put there, nose in the trough, the rest of them on the outer, so when the ball gets kicked out, you've got someone there. And no Saints were near him, so therefore it was an easy exit.
Nick Malthouse on ABC Radio and Sport Digital from the boundary throw-in. We're not going anywhere in a hurry. Another ball up.
That's the thing that's hard to wrestle at the moment with the Saints is the Dogs aren't playing lights-out football right now. They've done the work, so that's big credit to them. But right now, they're scrappy as well, and the Saints still can't make them pay. There's going to be a free kick from this ball up, pushing the back against Rowan Marshall.
Just gave a shove to Jordan Sweet, so free kick for Sweet at half-back for the Bulldogs. That's the voice of Cameron Ling, 3-time premiership player, premiership captain. Lingy and Mick with us throughout the season. Friday night footy in Melbourne on Grandstand AFL as Sweet heads it down the city wing, but Wilkie able to get himself in the box seat to take the intercept mark, and now there's 50 as Tim English turns to the umpire and has a word, and the umpire said, I need you to be a little more constructive with your feedback, and so he's going to be marched 50 metres.
Yeah, and he did get a shove, but really that is dissent. But he definitely got a shove. Now, this is one where he should go back because he can plug this from 55.
He's only kicked one, Mick, in his 80-game career so far. Cal Wilkie, he's not even going to attempt it. Passes it, looking to try and find Membry. Wood flew through for it. Flying through was King. He's look away, hand pass, a turnover. Johannisen for the Dogs puts it back into dispute. Still a live ball, 15 out from the Saints' goal. Liberatore under pressure, hand pass to Keith. He feeds it back to Johannisen. Wanted the boundary line, finds it. Says spin it in, and a boundary throw in forward pocket for St Kilda. Bulldogs by 47, 18 played in the third.
Bontempelli's had it 25 times, Libba 23. Bailey Smith on his return, 18 disposals so far as it's flicked back in, spinning ball, hits the ground. The umpire spots something and says taken too high against Billings.
Libba.
Against Crouch, rather, it'll be a free kick to Libba.
Yeah, Bailey Smith's found the footy, you're right, Cal. He's been rushed with his disposals tonight, but that's what happens when you haven't played for a month, and obviously a lot going through his head, but he's certainly found it like this bloke has, Bontempelli.
Yeah, possession number 26 now for Bontempelli to Keith, who's marking and trying to do some fancy footwork in front of Rowan Marshall, in front of the Saints bench. Back to Richards, kicks it back inboard. Sinclair really has been the outstanding player for the Saints that just got that desperation and determination to make every contest a real contest. Some of his teammates should be watch what he does and be a bit more inspired. But his spoil went over the boundary line. Sinclair comes to the bench for a breather. It's tossed back in front of the Dogs bench this time, and it's going to roll back over. So really in a real lull, stoppage to stoppage at the moment in his third term. It's the Dogs by 47 points.
A bit of a sample off the SMS, Cal, 0437 774 774. Did I hear wrong, or did you all tip the Saints? That is correct. We all tip the Saints.
We regret that.
Henry in Melbourne, there's one for you, Mick, which I'll get to in just a moment. From the restart, Billings for St Kilda, hand pass away to Hill, so the Saints win it from the stoppage. Goes back by hand to Highmore. He kicks out wide, and Liberatore in a 2-on-1. Knocks it out of play. And forces the neutral ball for the Bulldogs, so a boundary throwing in front of the benches where Tim Hodges is. Hodgie.
It's hard to believe, Corbin, this night could get any worse for St Kilda, but Patrick Ryder just came off the ground, spoke to both physios, and he's been taken straight down to the rooms. He was clearly uncomfortable, has done something, so you just cross your fingers now.
It's not good news for the 34-year-old as Bailey Smith from the boundary throw-in kicks down to half forward, but Jones is there for St Kilda. Hand pass to Battle, back to Jones, goes back by hand to Sharman, sells the dummy around Waitman, and then hits up Crouch, who takes the mark. Defensive side of the wing. It's from Henry in Melbourne. Hi, Mick, in your experience, when teams look lost, is it information overload?
Well, you just like to think they might take something on. I've just watched Membry now waving his arms. He was clear. He just wants that ball in the forward line. It must be so frustrating. So overload? No, I don't think it's overload. They're just playing the same way.
Wilkie somehow has been able to get it further up the ground on the dockside wing. Higgins and now Wanganeen Millera kicks to a one-on-one. It slipped through the hands of Wood in the end. Pouncing on it is Hannon. Comes back inboard and then blazes away out of bounds on the full. So Wilkie will get a chance to reload on the city side wing.
What you said, Lee, you're not exactly setting the world on fire.
The Dogs,
The Dogs, but they 3 goals to none this quarter. Says it all.
Here's a chance for Gresham. He got a shove in the back as he got his kick away and it bounced into the post. It just feels like they need to light something, some sort of spark to this contest.
Something like that goal. You're right.
Yeah, they need something out of nowhere. They've just got so lethargic and they're almost bringing the Bulldogs back down to their level in this third term. The margin is 46 points.
Time on in the third. Williams out of the defensive 50. Waitman dropped the chest mark, follows up, got a hand pass away to Dale. He just sells the dummy beautifully to Bradley Hill and then hits up Dunkley on the 45, who marks back in the outer corridor. Hand pass away to Bailey Smith. The mullet flapping as he runs through Docklands. Kicks to half forward. Johannisen takes the mark. Can poke the pass inside 50 for Adam Treloar. And he marks about 40 metres out, right half forward for the Bulldogs.
He just tried the clever little mark and skip for an extra half a metre for the man on the mark, and the umpire fell for it.
Com Games around the corner, a little hop, skip and a jump, just trying to weave his way forward.
That extra little yardage, well played. But that was Bailey Smith's kick. That's how you take the game on and kick. Run from behind, get a handball receive, and then nail a kick, taking it forward. Sets everything up.
He's had more of a role in the defensive half the last fortnight, but he doesn't forget how to pop them through. One of the best goal-kicking mids in the game. Adam Treloar drills it. That's how you do it. The horns are up again. The celebration from Adam Treloar matching that of Bontempelli earlier in the night. The Bulldogs by 52 points. Time on third term, 11-5-71. St Kilda, 2 goals, 7-19. Dogs by 52. They've kicked the only 3 of the third quarter, which is 23 minutes old. Mick Malthouse, Cameron Ling.
Well, on those Hill forward, that's... I don't know how long that's been. I just haven't sighted him from this quarter, so perhaps he has been forward. But that's at least by going forward, he can come up the ground and get involved. In the half-back line, he was just giving the ball straight back. If Paddy Ryder's off, we've got one ruckman. And interesting enough, I don't know whether they trust King's fitness or his body, but it wouldn't be go astray for him to go into the ruck and just see if he can get the ball around the ground, take a bit of pressure off him.
So this time it's Jordan Sweet and Marshall. Gresham bursting through. Handball to Steele. Comes back to Crouch. Crouch is running sideways and then delivering out in front of Membry, who marks on his chest. Too far out to score for Tim Membry. He's been forward and back tonight. Just trying to plug the holes. Membry's just going to bomb it long to the top of the square. Who's got the fly? Gardner with a huge fist. Spoils it in the Bontempelli direction. Bontempelli forced to tackle, and popping up with it is Higgins. He goes the snap, and it was all or nothing, and it came up nothing for Jack Higgins. So another behind. It's 2-8-20. St Kilda Football Club, the Doggies 11-5-71.
Quickly out of defence, Dale to Richards, and then Richards hits up Williams, who marks at half-back. The haircut this week for Jack Higgins, so he was rolling around with the mullet for a few weeks. That's gone. There's Williams for the Dogs, kicks down the wing, and Wilkie reaching over the top of West takes the intercept mark for St Kilda. Short to Crouch, lays a hand pass off to Gresham. He links up with Burns, who kicks off his non-preferred left boot inside 50. Max King,
great mark,
works his way to the front and comes down with the Sharon. Pack mark for Max at right half forward. Tim Hodges on the boundary as he goes back to take his kick.
More bad news, yeah. Unfortunately, Paddy Ryder is out. It's a calf injury. He's been subbed out of the match. So Ben Long comes in, and Paddy Ryder has just come back from the rooms, and he's having ice applied to that left calf injury. So the old man disease gets him, unfortunately. This is a dirty night for the Saints.
At least there's a bit of a look into the future, and it's very bright with Max King. He does his bit. He pops it through. St Kilda with just their third of the night. 3-8-26. The Western Bulldogs 11-5-71. The 22-year-old Max King has been a tough gig in that forward line. He kicks his first. Meanwhile, at the other end of the spectrum, age-wise, the 34-year-old Paddy Ryder subbed out with a calf injury. Dogs by 45, Mick and Cameron Ling.
They still didn't go there super quick to King, but at least went a little bit more direct, Mick.
Yep.
One or two little possessions here and then got it to him. He still had to fly against Terrain and take a terrific grab, but I'm at a bit of a loss as to why more often tonight the Saints haven't taken the opportunity to go forward quickly while that Dogs defence is the big question mark around
exactly.
their abilities.
Surely the match, the coaches must have seen what everyone else has seen about the Dogs. Surely. So therefore, to exploit it, you need the ball in that area.
English wins it in the air, flicks it behind his head, steals it, off to Gresham, to Jones, and now Crouch, all by hand. Looks good on the build-up, the delivery good to Membry. Springs up, takes a mark in front of Khamis. Again, too far out to score, so he's told to play on. He's just going to stab it into the pocket, looking for King at the back. And launching across the face of the pack was Alex Keith, and he hits the deck hard. He's had a tough night. He's got a corky, and he's a little slow to get up, and a little proppy Alex Keith. Bulldogs by 44 points. They led by 30 at quarter time, by 36 at half time. And they're extending their lead as we approach three-quarter time, 2 minutes to play.
Oh, Bailey Dale almost kicked the ground as the ball skids away to centre half back. Picked up by Sweet. Hand pass to Bailey Smith to Liberatore. Gives it back to Dale. And he gets another go at it. Kicks the Sharon all the way out to the city wing. Bontempelli can't mark, but knocks it to his own advantage. Runs onto it from the high half forward. Kicks for Johannesson. What transition. And the beautiful entry from the Bont. And now Jason Johannesson from 15 metres out, just right of centre, can try and bang through another one for the Dogs.
Well, Bailey Dale can kick the ball into the ground and still recover the hand pass because he followed up his bad kick, and his next kick then goes over the next line and sets the play up. It's there's no mistake. Running creates mayhem.
So the Saints' first goal of the third term is immediately answered. Johannesson bangs it up into the second deck, and the Bulldogs restore a 50-point buffer. The Western Bulldogs 12-5-77, St Kilda 3-9-27. Approaching three-quarter time on Grandstand AFL. Tim Hodges on the boundary.
Corbin, I'm not sure if it can get worse for Paddy Ryder. So we thank Claire from the club who has let us know that they fear it. It's Achilles. It's Achilles soreness, they're saying, is why they're bringing him out of the game, Paddy Ryder. So it's not a calf, but gee, I'm not sure. Is Achilles even worse, guys, at his age?
Well, if it's a ruptured Achilles, it's a hell of a lot worse.
He had the Achilles in the pre-season, which was the slow start to the year. I think he missed the first couple of games, maybe, with the Achilles soreness.
Like tendonitis.
Yeah, that he battled in the pre-season. He didn't do a pre-season because of that. So that is a real worry. He's taken in the same draft as Scott Pendlebury, who plays his 350th tomorrow. Saints out of the centre. Zake Jones looking for Membries. Good spoil from behind by Karmas, and then Richards. Handball to Gardner. Gardner's handball wobbled and bobbled its way to Dale, and Dale kicks. Oh, Miller Wanganeen Miller got up high and launched but couldn't pull down the mark.
It's an interesting comparison with, obviously, being a big guy. So he plays his 281st game tonight, Paddy. He's obviously 20-odd short that he couldn't play with the 2016 year, obviously being part of the Essendon 34. But, yeah, he's, 50 games short of Scott.
And Scott 350 tomorrow. You going to be there, Mick?
I'm going, yes.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Champion Collingwood captain. So Ed Richards bursting out of the defence for the Dogs. He's able to hit up Bailey Williams. Williams spots something inside that forward 50 that he likes. The target was Sweet. Sweet then played for a push in the back, which is what the Doggies fans wanted, and the umpire said, no, I'm not falling for that. So instead it's a ball up.
Dunkley nearly took that mark as well.
40 metres,
his knee, I think.
40 metres out from the Doggies' goal. English down to Bailey Smith, tackled by Steele. And then he pushes Steele aside, and there's just a few words between Bailey Smith and Jack Steele. And, of course, we've seen Bailey Smith involved in an action after a siren here about a month ago where he was caught with the headbutt on Zach Tui, which cost him a couple of weeks. And then, of course, caught on camera with an illicit substance, and that cost him a couple of weeks as well. So he's back in the team tonight, Bailey Smith, and hasn't been his absolute best, but he's been solid. 21 disposals, trailing Bontempelli, who's got 28, Liberatore's got 26, and Jack Sinclair's been the best. So has Wilkie for the Saints with 25 and 23 apiece. Three-quarter time here under the closed roof at Docklands. It's the Doggies by 50 points, 12-5-77. St Kilda 3-9-27. Ugle-Hagan has threes, kicked one in each quarter. And then they're all individual goal kickers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 individual goal kickers all up for the Dogs. For the Saints, it's King, Steele and Wood.
Quick one for you, Cal, off the SMS. Mark in Adelaide, what's your best guess at a crowd figure?
Ooh, 25-ish?
Yep.
Yeah, I can say about that.
Yeah, 26.
Bill says Dogs have consistently turned the ball over in their on their half-forward line, but they're still winning. Go figure. That's from Bill. From Ben in Terrelgan, this sounds pretty good. Sitting in front of the fire with a hot chocolate, enjoying the call from you all. How many father-sons are on the Dogs list? Is this a record? So the Dogs currently have 6 father-sons, which is equal with Collingwood. The Pies have 6 at the moment.
At the moment, is it?
As well.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure all time as to how that stacks up, but I imagine that'd be pretty high. 6.
Oh, that would be. That's
6 for the Dogs and 6 for the Pies as it sits at the moment. The SMS is 0437 774 774. The thoughts of Mick and Lingy to come. At three-quarter time, the Dogs by 50 points on ABC Radio and Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
Know the story with ABC News Digital. Get the latest breaking news with live notifications whenever you want, wherever you are.
We are considering going to zero emissions.
We'll go ahead as planned.
And abruptly ended the case.
It will help us all get back to normal and back to all the things that we love.
Those are the kind of things that work.
There's hope for a brighter future.
ABC News, Australia's most trusted news source. Head to news.abc.net.au or download the ABC News app.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season. Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
To the run of Treloar through the middle of Docklands. Beautiful service to Ugelhagen. Can't complete the mark. Spills through to Bontempelli. Gives it back to Jamara. Sells a dummy to try and pop through his third. Jamara, what a finish. He's kicked the first of each quarter.
Garcia to Bontempelli. He stepped back inside on his trusty left and Sinclair and Hillmore onto him. Still he fights and scraps. He fires out a handball. Garcia is going to swoop onto it. Garcia with the snap and Garcia with the finish.
He's had more of a role in the defensive half the last fortnight, but he doesn't forget how to pop them through. One of the best goal-kicking mids in the game. Adam Treloar drills it. Short to Crouch. Lays a hand pass off to Gresham. He links up with Burns, who kicks off his not-preferred left boot inside 50. Max kick. Great fight. Works his way to the front and comes down with the Sharon. At least there's a bit of a look into the future. And it's very bright with Max King. He does his bit. He pops it through. St Kilda with just their third of the night. Picked up by Sweet. Hand pass to Bailey Smith. To Liberatore gives it back to Dale. He gets another go at it. Kicks the Sharon all the way out to the city wing. Bontempelli can't mark, but knocks it to his own advantage. Runs onto it from a high half forward. Kicks for Johannesson. What transition. So the Saints' first goal of the third term is immediately answered. Johannesson bangs it up into the second deck. And the Bulldogs restore a 50-point buffer.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
And that's how it sits at three-quarter time. 50 large in favour of the Western Bulldogs. Meanwhile, in the NRL second half action, the Eels lead the Warriors by 10, 28-18. And in the soccer crosstown, Melbourne victory and Manchester United. It's Manchester United 3, Melbourne victory 1. So a 3-1 lead for our Red Devils, Nick, at approaching full-time there at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. What do you see here through three quarters?
Well, what I see here, one side that's got some hunger and the other one, unfortunately, hasn't. And I just feel, having played at the Saints, I've always had a real soft spot because their supporters have just been, I reckon they've been dudded. Tonight, those that would have come tonight expecting a side to fight for a position in the 8. In fact, I think you said it, they could have woken up tomorrow morning in the 8.
Yeah.
And you just look at it and you think, even players like Jack Steele, who I expect more from, I suppose we all expect more from, he's been unders. Rowan Marshall's been unders. I feel sorry for King. He just gets shocking delivery. Wilkie's a good player. Sinclair is okay. Gresham's okay, but getting slaughtered in the centre. And outside of that, I'm just trying to find a light, something that the Saints can go, well, you know what, we would be better. I mean, I'm looking here in the wing and I'm seeing Mason Wood as a winger. He's as much a winger as, I mean...
Sinclair and Wilkie have been the only two who could hold their head up tonight.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
But structurally, Lingy, structurally, they just are not sound. They're not sound because you've got to have hunters and you've got to have receivers and you've got to have runners. There's been little to no run. The hunters have been out-hunted easily and the outer hasn't been able to hold them in there. In fact, tackle-wise for the game, well, it's built up a bit. It's gone to 30. I suppose the Dogs just keep...
35 to 24.
Well, they keep running into him now to give him something to tackle. But, I'm...
24 tackles the Saints have laid.
Yeah, yep.
50 points to lead for the Bulldogs. This is unusual. There's a whistle. There's a free kick for a... Is it a 666 infringement?
Yeah, I reckon Ugelhagen left the square.
Left the square.
So the goal umpire was awake to that, and he officiated it and alerted the other umpire who blew the whistle, and now the Saints are going forward out of the middle. So Marshall kicks to centre half forward. It comes to Jones. Hand pass to Billings. Extra hand pass along the sub. He gives it to Steele. Kicks inside the forward pocket. Karmas, though, out to meet it for the Bulldogs. Just knocks it on in front of him. Passes once. Ain't grabs the footy off his backside. He just wanted it more, Buku Karmas. Hand pass away to Treloar. Goes back to Gardner. Kicks a high up and under outside defensive 50. The Saints knock it back inside. Billings had it. His hand pass deflected away to Long. He sockers it to Sinclair's advantage. Runs onto the loose ball off his non-preferred left boot. Jack Sinclair. Neat finish on a night with very few highlights for St Kilda. What a player he's becoming.
Well, he just keeps going, Corbin. You call it, just hit the ball hard. And you also called just before that, none of the Saints would stand in line from one of the Dogs' defenders. It's just kept on coming out, charging out. No one would stand there. And luckily he overran the ball. That's the only reason why the ball ended up back with Sinclair.
So 12-5-77 the Western Bulldogs. The Saints move to 4-9-33. So he becomes the first player other than Jamara Ugle-Hagan to kick the first goal of the quarter tonight. Jamara did so in the first three. And Jack Sinclair, just his third goal of the season. He was off the rookie list back in the days where he made his debut, actually got put back onto the rookie list and lost his place in the team as a result of it, back when we used to have the old rule that you had to be elevated to the senior list to play, and now he's made his way to one of the best running defenders in the game.
Yeah, superb player.
So the Dogs out of the centre through English. The ruckman, a high ball. Dropped. He was camped at the drop there, Mason Wood, but he drops it in the end. Hurried kick towards Marshall on the dockside wing. They go in from all angles. Zach Jones is tackled by Liberatore.
In real life in footy, Mick, you would have seen so many different rule changes and things like that, but it's amazing trying to explain to people nowadays, well, he was on the rookie list, so he wasn't allowed to play in the senior team. Nowadays you can just play from any position on the list.
Bontempelli with another possession off to Bailey Dale. His high kick inside 50 is spoilt. Now Waitman runs onto it. He goes without it. Treloar couldn't pick it up. In the end, it's Jimmy Webster who's kicked straight down the centre to Higgins. Higgins spins, turns, kicks to Membry. Membry finds something he likes inside 50, and it was quick movement, and Billings is on the end of it, and that's what Mick Malthouse and Cameron Ling have called for all night from St Kilda. Move it quickly on the turnover, and guess what? Billings has got a set shot.
And left side advantage, so Jack's worked pretty hard. He's been out of touch early in the year. They didn't pick him.
Set snap, couple of steps. Does he like it off the boot? He does, and he celebrates. Back-to-back goals for the Saints. And just a late surge to give them something on what has been a very, very dreary night so far. Margin is 38 points. The Dogs 12-5-77, St Kilda 5-9-39.
Well, it's what we have been calling for all night, and there's a reason for it. It's because of the vulnerability of the Dogs' defenders. And we've said it all night, Mick. We've said it every time we've ever worked on a Bulldogs game. If you can break even with them in the middle of the ground, and up to three-quarter time, the clearances were 32-17 the Dogs' way, so they weren't breaking even. But if you can, and if you can get it in there quick enough, they are vulnerable. So I thought it would shift after half-time, that Brett Ratton say the game plan, we got it wrong. Let's go to playing faster footy through the corridor. Didn't happen, but at least to start this quarter, they have tried it.
Back in the middle, St Kilda with the first two goals of the final term. Gresham just sockers it forward.
I think it's a Steele free kick, Corbs, here for pushing the back.
And he was tackled. And
I would have thought advantage would have been probably high on the list you sent.
So the two captains, Bontempelli into the back of Steele, gets the free, kicks to half forward. King goes on a climb, no mark, spills down to Long. Hand pass to Higgins, he snaps goalward across the goal face. Misses to the far side or behind. Oh, in fact, it's hit the behind post, so we're going to have a boundary throw-in, in fact.
No, they don't get a goal out of that, but Jack Steele got the free kick, had a sideways boundary option, which they've taken all night, ignored it, got it in quick, shot at goal.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Bulldogs by 38, 5 minutes into the last. Boundary throw-in, dangerous spot for the Bulldogs. Bailey Smith grabs it, hands it to Libber. His kick smothered, ricochets to Dale. He just hands it away to the Bont, who's been superb. Kicks up to the wing, and Highmore.
That's a great mark.
Put his body on the line in front of Bruce to take the intercept mark for St Kilda.
Oh, he's gone backwards, but a lot of courage in that, Mark. A lot of courage.
Go.
Josh Bruce was in that pack. Hasn't had an impact so far, yet to kick a goal. So the Saints do go. Sinclair goes just inside 50. Unable to do it airily, but here's a chance for Mason Wood. Handballs off to Higgins. Spins, shimmy, little shrug of the hips, and the snap hits the post. And he puts both hands up to his head. He can't believe it. Hasn't been his night. He's not the only Saints man out there. So the margin is 37 points. Tim Hodges on the boundary.
Oh, Kel, can you imagine how angry St Kilda fans are walking to their car now? The crowd has thinned out so much since three-quarter time that they're angry for three quarters watching this. Then they've left and they'll be angrier hearing that they're playing really well now, finally, the Saints.
On the way home, nice to have you with us, Saints fans, driving from Docklands. So the Dogs working up to the wing. Libba somehow got it out to Bontempelli. Kicks inside 50 and Highmore again with courage. Knew his teammate was coming in the other direction. Burns takes the mark anyway. Kicks St Kilda out towards the City wing. Higgins and Karmas collide. Ball close to the boundary line, and Karmas is seen over by Jack Steele in the tackle. The boundary throw-in on the City wing.
Timmy, can I just say to you, Tim, when you're 9 goals down, it's easy to play good footy. And honestly, and that's not being smart, because the pressure comes off and all of a sudden you look at $1 million. The trouble is you're trailing by 9 goals. You know, the time to stand up is when your team needs you most.
So the Saints with possession on the City side wing. Burns handballs back to Marshall. His kick was under pressure, and it's picked off by Bailey Smith.
Sorry, Tim.
Workmanlike performance from Bailey Smith tonight. Goes for a bit of a dash, and then he's kicked it straight to the opposition. The opposition ruckman in Marshall. Marshall moves it straight down the ground. Mark to Zach Jones. He's going to hold it up here.
He signalled, slow it down, let's control the footy. Guess what, Zach? It has not worked all night.
And yeah, he'll get far you down too, Zach.
But is that game plan, Lingy? Is that right? Sideways, backwards? Is that game plan?
It's been trained into them.
Yep.
And wrongly trained into them all week, and that's the way they played.
Yep. Here's a chance for Bradley Hill from the pocket. He goes for home. Out of bounds on the full.
Oh, what a surprise.
Mick Moldhouse's groan said it all. I didn't need to explain it.
Oh, that's just a surprise, that kick.
Dogs by 37 points. 12 goals to 5 for the evening.
Dale, trying to exit straight down the middle. Dangerous kick, turns it over. King takes the intercept mark, 40 out directly in front.
Well, I'm glad, because Max King deserves a little present.
Absolutely does.
He's had 3 knees in his back every time it's been dumped on his head all night. Go back and just kick this one, Maxie.
Max King. 41 for the year to make it 42. His set shot is out to the right and stays there.
Wasn't his best technique, that one,
Nick. Dogs by 36. 8 minutes into the final term on Grandstand AFL. 12-5 to 5-11.
So this time Bailey Dale makes sure of it to Buku Karmas. Kicks down the wing, and that's a nice mark taken by the Saints defender Sharman. Rising high. Socks down, black boots on, thought about going long and then got worried out of it, so gave it off to Wanganeen Millerer, who goes short to long, the sub, who's just come on, tries to go the banana. I'm not sure what he was thinking then. He had a bulldog either side of him and it was smothered, that kick.
I know he's a sub, but Ben Long's the sort of bloke really belongs in this team to give some grunt. You just know you're going to get an effort with him.
There hasn't been a lot of effort, a lot of grunt tonight. That's been missing. Sweet sweeps it down to Liberatore. Off to the run of Bailey Smith. Long down the line. Bruce keeps it in play. Flicks back to Waitman. Waitman's got to beat a couple. Still went for the bump and missed Waitman. Probably lucky for Waitman. And over the boundary. So a throw in. City side wing. 77 plays 41. There's 13 and a bit minutes left in this contest.
Boundary throw in. Marshall hands it straight down to Long, who went flying through. Hand pass, it couldn't quite connect with Crouch. Treloar got it to Bailey Smith. His hand pass and turnover. He's Long again. Clears the congestion. Kicks down to half forward. Picked up by Karmas. He's tackled by King. A metre in from the boundary line. 40 out from the Saints goal. We're going to have a ball up in that very spot As the ump says, I'll have it. Dogs by 36. This was the margin at half-time. Bontempelli and Liberatore both been excellent for the side that has led start to finish as Sweet palms it down. Treloar squeezes a kick out but puts it out on the full. And a free kick for St Kilda. And Jack Steele's going to take it. Just lays it up to the top of the goal square. Karmas out to meet it. No mark. Spills down to Higgins. Chucks it on the left boot. He misses.
Oh, got to give a handball there, Mick.
To one of three. He had three players in front of him to hand pass. And it's a trouble. When you're not playing well, you become selfish.
He's hit the post twice and now another behind for Jack Higgins. 35 points. The Dogs lead 10 minutes into the last.
So it was Treloar on the kick-ins and they've gone bang, bang, bang. McNeil's got it streaming down the wing. Kicks it with a bounce out in front of Ugle-Hagan. He can't control it. He follows up with a tackle on Wilkie. Wilkie gets it to Burns. Burns' kick is an absolute shocker. Tries to bring it back inboard for Jones. Bailey Smith fumbled it. Jones got rid of him and then charges through and he's tackled either side. Richards on one side, McRae on the other, and it'll be a ball up a metre away from the Saints bench. Burns comes off for a breather. Membry back on. He's going up to the forward line. Flicked in the air. Marshall takes it out of there. Sweet went to ground and then Sweet dispossessed him. Ben Long tried to put his body on the line with a mini hip and shoulder and the ball's not coming out of there. A tangle of arms and legs will go again in front of the interchange gates. Liberatore still pointing. Still working it all out despite the heavy margin. There's a hold in there. It'll be a free to Rowan Marshall. No Paddy Ryder out there. He's re-injured his Achilles. And what's been a really forgettable night for St Kilda. So Marshall back to Highmore and then to Sharman. Wider still to Battle. All uncontested. This is what they've done all tonight. Sideways and backwards. Now Ben Patton. Nowhere to go. So he's just going to wedge that kick even more sideways to Battle, who cuts it back inboard. These are all 15-minute kicks to Sinclair, and then the handball off to Patton. Patton goes long, backing back bravely. That mark's going to be paid to Marshall. That was courageous by Rowan Marshall, marking over the top of Sweet.
It really was, Cal. Good call. Terrific grab by Rowan Marshall. The one player who, with all those short kicks and marks and going nowhere with the intent to play on, was Sinclair.
Yeah.
The moment he took it, he urged Patton to run, and he moved and got the handball off. They get a quick entry and a terrific grab by Marshall.
So a chance to make it 3 in a row for the Saints. Well, the body language said it all. He threw the mouth guard out, hands on hips, dropped the head. He's missed from point blank range pretty much, Rowan Marshall.
They've had more scoring shots. More scoring shots, and you cannot believe they've had more scoring shots.
Amazing.
5-13 to 12-5.
I'm just looking at you, Mick, thought exactly the same thing. Yeah. It's amazing. They've had more scoring shots than the Dogs and yet have trailed wire to wire so far. St Kilda never looked like they've been in the game. Dogs kicked the first 7 goals of the night and they lead it by 34 points.
The Dogs, I know they kicked 4 in that third quarter, but they weren't great in that third quarter and haven't been great this last term.
They get it out of the defensive 50. Williams to McRae. Hand pass to Smith. He gives it to Richards. Back to Bailey Smith. Runs out of room. Hand pass, coughs it up. Woods got it. His handball goes out of play. So a boundary throw in. Just forward of the wing for the Saints.
When you're up by so much, I get it. It doesn't have to be perfect for the whole night. So that's not a shot at the Dogs because they've done enough to win this game very, very comfortably. But they're still not selling me totally, the Dogs, even in a really
Well, they should be playing for percentage as well.
Yeah.
Sweet palms it down to Smith. You got a kick away and then a shove. In the process of doing so, free kick Dogs.
I should say that they are a few key players out with health and safety protocols and everything like that. So, okay, they're not going to be firing on every cylinder, and they did the work early, but they've been scrappy since half-time.
Smith short to Treloar, goes short to Bontempelli in the middle of the ground. He's been tremendous tonight, the Bont. Hand pass to Richards, kicks to West. Hand pass away to Treloar, keeps on moving, feeds it forward, sweeping hand pass to Karmas. The lefty looks for home. He pulls the trigger. It's just offline. Missing out to the left.
Better defender or better forward, do we think, for Karmas? Or we haven't seen enough of him?
I like him the way he plays. He's playing well behind the ball.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more.
Dogs by 35 midway through the last.
So the Saints have worked it up to the City wing. Handball from Jones to Gresham. Gave it off to Long, the sub, who's come on. A bouncing ball, an unkind bounce for Wood in the end. Now the foot race is on. Mason Wood works in front. He looks for goal. He's going to go the miracle. It's almost socketed through from Butler. Once again, Mason Wood couldn't give the handball off.
No, he didn't. He had two. He just only had two players. Who was before? He had three. So Higgins had three. He had two. So perhaps
he went for the miracle snap on the boundary, and yes, couldn't pull it off. So Dogs by 34 points. And interesting. I'm sure a lot of Saints fans are thinking this. And we can talk to you, Mick, about it in the post-match. But since Brett Ratton re-signed, the Dogs have lost to Freo by 41 and are facing a very heavy loss here tonight to the Western Bulldogs. I don't know whether players react to news like that. We'll get to that after the post-match because what they've done in the last fortnight certainly hasn't been good enough.
McRae kicks to the wing, sweeps there to Big Ruckman, hand pass away to West, to Garcia, who runs, carries, closed down by Patton, links up now with Johannisen, 50 metres out, kicks into the pocket, West the target, got to him in the end off the hand of Patton, hand pass to Waitman, squeezes the kick out but turns it over. Battle with the intercept mark, last line of defence, kicks to centre half back, here the Saints go through the corridor, finds Gresham. Gresham jams it on the left peg out in front of Ben Long. Hard attack on the footy. Bounces clean off the Dogs defender. Got the ball moving forward. Membry onto it. Membry 48 metres out. Centering kick superb to Max King. And King takes the mark. It was Gardner involved in that collision with Ben Long, and neither of them took a backward step.
And Ben Long come up with it. I'm mystified by him. I'm not a selector, so therefore, but I can voice an opinion. He is all guts. But this is where it is because of run.
Max King to double up. Through it goes. He's got a couple. And St Kilda have kicked the only three of the final term. All of a sudden, the Dogs' lead is under 30 points, which it was at quarter time. It's the Bulldogs by 28. 12-6-78, St Kilda 6-14-50. The Dogs kicked the first 7 goals of the contest. So St Kilda have outscored them thereafter, but whatever that's worth, the game was shot early. We've now travelled 17 and a half minutes into the final term.
4-12 inside 50, so that's a little bit damning, Corbin. I think your point, Lingy, you can't excuse, you can say, well, okay, it's the last quarter, but you can't excuse that sort of performance when you've dominated it generally. 12-4 is a bit of a shellacking for a quarter, and they've only kicked 3 or 4, the Saints, in it. They could have well kicked 5 or 6.
So biggest margin was 50 points late in that third term. It's now back to 28 points. Bounced down in the centre. Huge tackle there. St Kilda player applying. That was Wanganeen Millera. Bit of intensity, bit of grunt about the Saints in this last term. Wanganeen Millera applies another tackle, but it's stolen by McRae. He kicks inside 50. Waitman hits it on the bounce, blazes away a rush of blood. Hasn't been his night. Waitman, he's put that out of bounds on the full, the left foot snap in the left forward pocket. Kicked a goal early, looked like he might be on. Hasn't really been sighted since. So Webster will take it. High ball, Karma sits. So too does Ugle-Hagan. Williams is tackled by Steele. Higgins behind play with a bit of cramp. Gets up a little proppy. So ball up on the outer side. English whacks it straight down the throat of Bailey Smith. Off to the run of Treloar. Has a bounce. Charges away. The legs are pumping into the left forward pocket. Kicks it. And it's a free kick against Riley West.
Well, they should dominate the stoppages here. Mason Wood is up against English. It's a good move to keep English on him and work it from there.
So Wilkie from one side of the pocket to the other. And 2 best plays for the Saints combined. Wilkie to Sinclair, then Sinclair to Mason Wood, and then to Burns. Pointing, shouting, not moving. So he just goes long. Who's got the sit? Flying over the top was Ugle-Hagan. Zach Jones with the handball to Higgins. Higgins high to Gresham. Fancy footwork, cuts through a couple of dogs. Jones goes backwards to Webster, all by hand. Now they bring it inboard. Crouch, little give in there was Battle. Highmore's involved. Back to Crouch. Crouch goes long. Karmas in position A. And in front of him was Gardner, who's taken the mark.
Yeah, good mark by Gardner. He's not recognised for that, but well set, stayed in position.
There's a hand pass off to Bailey Dale. So 28 points the Bulldogs lead. Saints have kicked the only 3 goals of the final term. Long kick to Bontempelli. He had 20 and 1 to half-time. The Bont is up to 33 for the night to go along with a goal as he kicks down the wing. And the Saints will win it as Webster the 1-2 with Sinclair. And now Sinclair back into the defensive 50 for Wilkie. Wilkie to Crouch. Cutting through the corridor. Links up with Burns, hand pass back to Sinclair, third touch in the chain, goes deep forward to Higgins. There's 3 dogs
He has
back.
played on, this is holding the ball.
Keith took the mark, played on, told to go, tackled by Butler, dispossessed. Higgins in the pocket, hand pass back to Butler, centering kick, and Jones will mark. 35 out directly in front.
I think the umpire's call was right.
Yeah, he
took
went.
that step.
Yeah. And that is very good umpiring because it happens so often, and the bloke on the mark, he just gets done cold.
So Zach Jones, he's dead in front. His set shot is on the way. It's good. Surely not. In the final 5 minutes, the Bulldogs' lead has been cut to 22. They led this game by as many as 50 at three-quarter time. The Western Bulldogs 12-6-78. They've stopped to a walk. St Kilda the only 4 goals of the final term. St is 7-14-56. They would need 4 goals in just under 5 minutes of actual game time.
Well, it would be very good.
Imagine if you went to the soccer tonight and you saw the score line and you thought, and as a St Kilda fan, you probably thought, oh, we didn't kick straight. We could have been in the game. It hasn't been that sort of game at all.
No.
21 scoring
18.
shots to 18.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Inside 50s for the game. Be heavily in favour of the Dogs, would you imagine?
Yeah, it's evened up considerably. It was massively in
It's
favour of the
43-40.
Bounce in the centre. Marshall gets it down on all fours. Bontempelli to Bailey Smith. He's caught by Marshall and still somehow gets a miraculous handball away. Bailey Dale now to McRae on that lethal left boot. Out in front of Bruce. Couldn't take the mark. Bruce then getting down low and applying a tackle. He does well, Josh Bruce.
No, you cannot give that.
Holding the ball. It'll be a free kick to Josh Bruce. Wilkie.
That's against Wilkie. Oh, he had his head ripped off too, Wilkie.
Yeah.
Dunkley on top of him, and Josh Bruce came in late, and Josh Bruce is going to win the free kick. The former Saintry played 99 games for St Kilda. Back in the team for his first game tonight. He launches high. Bontempelli! Bontempelli in the pack. We don't often see him get that high off the ground. Last man in the pack. It's been a Bontempelli masterclass tonight.
Oh, it has been. Even when the Dogs have been scrappy in the second half, Bontempelli's still been clean, found the footy, damaging. 33 disposals coming up for goal number 2. He's taken 11 marks as well.
And that one was a ripper from directly in front. The captain, Bont, simply beautiful. Geez, pumped for that as well. He almost went the Brett Lee fast bowler lawnmower celebration on that little set shot. He's so excited. So Bontempelli with 2 very interesting goal celebrations tonight. The horns for the first goal and then the lawnmower for the second. Just a mini lawnmower, Corbin.
I like it.
And the Dogs shut the door in the Saints' face. 13-6-84. St Kilda 7-14-56. You'd have to say Bont best on ground. Dogs by 28 points.
I had his name written with the 3 votes about 15 minutes ago, Cal. That was never going to change.
Oh, now, Wiggy, I know you very, very well. You had him down before the game. So I know the sort of players you like.
They're back to 28 points. The Bulldogs' way. It's their first score of the final term on the back of the superb mark and goal for Bontempelli. Libba the 1-2 with Dunkley. Libba kicks inside 50. Josh Bruce left it behind. Now becomes tackler on Patton. And the Saints will work it out. Sinclair goes back to Webster. He kicks out wide for Mason Wood, who marks at half-back. 4-1 St Kilda's way in the final term, but they were 50 down at three-quarter time. As Wood goes back to Battle. Battle kicks to centre-half back for Steele, and he swings his kick out wide for Billings. A trip across the Nullarbor next week for St Kilda. They play the much-improved West Coast Eagles, so that won't be a guaranteed 4 points for them over in Perth next week either, as Sinclair sends St Kilda down to half-forward. Spills to Long, takes on the tackler, hand pass to Gresham. He's tackled by Richards, got it away to Hill. Still centre-half forward for the Saints. Hand pass to Jones, to Crouch, by hand to Highmore, chips out wide. And Mason Wood takes the mark, left half forward. He's 55 out, and in the end, he just kicks it straight to Alex Keith. Takes the intercept mark in the back pocket for the Bulldogs.
I'm still trying to work out who he's kicking it to. There wasn't a Saint player within 20 metres.
Dogs by 28, 26 played in the last.
So the long kick from the defender, Bruce, really trying to get involved. He's willing himself to lots of contests. It flicks the way of Gresham. Lovely sidestep. Can he add the finishing touches on a good individual effort? He can't. Somehow it's kept in play. Wheeling around was Butler. Great smother by Keith. Dirty night for Butler in his 100th. Keith kick, ricochet, smothered to McRae and then to Richards, to Riley West. Can they get Josh Bruce a goal late here? The Dogs fans have stuck around for this one. They lead it by 28 points. There's a minute 20 to play. West steps around the man on the mark at half-back. Kicks looking for Sweet. Swooping is Garcia with speed. Does the fend off on Patton. Garcia keeps going. He's going to centre it to the top of the goal square. Unable to control it though was McNeil. It was McNeil v Sinclair, and Sinclair's been the best by a country mile for St Kilda, and he clears it.
Kicks to Billings. He's a good mate. They played Oz kick together for the Q Comets, going all the way back to now playing for St Kilda in the big time. As the kick goes down the wing to Wilkie. Wilkie looking for Sinclair again, kicks it over his head. Garcia's in a 1-on-4. Garcia still extracts it for the Bulldogs. Hand pass to the big man. Jordan Sweet trying to burn off Crouch. Sweeping hand pass in the Bruce direction. He's caught at the back. And Highmore protects the drop down to Webster. Kicks out wide for Mason Wood. And Wood's got it on the logo. He's closed down by Riley West, who will retreat back to Battle, who goes short to Webster. And Webster takes the mark back edge of the centre square. He'll come out wide to Mason Wood. And goes short to Marshall. And Marshall, in the waning moments, will come all the way out to Max King. He can't pick it up on the half volley. It's out on the full and a free kick for the Dogs. And that'll just about do us. It was billed as a virtual elimination final coming in, with it all to play for tonight. And the losers' hopes of making the finals dealt a significant blow. And for the Western Bulldogs, they shopped early and avoided the rush. They kicked 7 goals before St Kilda registered their first. And a first half mauling by the Bulldogs. They win by 28 points in the finish. Gee, it wasn't pretty. The Dogs led by 30 points at quarter time. They kicked the first 7 of the game to lead by 43 points midway through the second term. St Kilda kicked 2 of the last 3 in the first half. It was 36 points at half-time. It got all the way out to 50 at three-quarter time before St Kilda responded, kicking 4-1 in the final quarter, but they never got back within 22 points. They never looked like winning. The Dogs win wire to wire by 28 points over the Saints.
Sons of the West, red, white, and blue. We come out snarling, Bulldogs through and through. Bulldogs fight and Bulldogs roar. We give
So the Bulldogs get themselves to 9 wins. They leapfrog St Kilda on the premiership table. They're still 9th, sitting 4.4% behind Richmond, also on 9 wins, so equal 8th but percentage out. And of course the Tigers still to play the lowly Roos this weekend, so there's every chance they'll still be a game and percentage out, the Western Bulldogs, with 5 to go. Meanwhile, St Kilda, their percentage out of the 8 as it is at the moment, also on 9 wins, but don't worry about the maths. They're simply not playing well enough to be considered anywhere near a finals team. They've lost 5 of their past 6 games in freefall. Brett Ratton's men. It is the Dogs by 28 points in the finish. Immediate reactions from Cameron Ling and Mick Malthouse.
Immediate reaction is well done, Western Bulldogs. They did the job early. They played terrific, hard footy early in the middle of the ground. Dominated the clearances, dominated the contest and created some turnovers and scored heavily. Second half, scrappy, very, very scrappy by the Western Bulldogs, but they'd already done enough work. Hard to really get a great reaction on what St Kilda did, Corbs, because St Kilda fans driving home, and they probably left early, and fair enough too, after what they watched in the first half, would have to scratch their heads and think, why did we play like that in the first half? Really poor in the contest, really poor with their ball use, but I think a really terrible game plan as well, to go so slow and try and just possess the ball. Their marks... It's not a winning game plan against the Bulldogs to have 158 marks, the majority of those uncontested. So Saints fans will be
back of centre too.
And back of centre, yeah, you're right. And then see the way that they played in the last quarter. Granted, there wasn't much pressure, but when they did take the ball forward, they looked at least semi-dangerous in that last quarter. I think, why didn't we play like that, or at least try and play like that for the first 3 quarters?
Let's just have a listen to Marcus Bontempelli downstairs.
Both families initially, the Barker family and the Witten family, for what they do and the support they provide for both of their foundations. It's incredible work. Obviously, great contest in the end. The Saints boys really brought it late. Should be probably really proud of the way you fought that out. Well done to our lads. We keep moving forward. Thanks everyone for coming out. Appreciate it.
So Marcus Bontempelli at the presentation downstairs. He was just presented with the Ted Whitten Trevor Barker Challenge Plate, of course, which highlights the Trevor Barker Foundation and the E.J. Whitten Foundation, both of which partner with Challenge, an organisation dedicated to supporting children and their families living with cancer, of course, in honour of the 2 champion players of both clubs, in Trevor Barker from St Kilda and, of course, Ted Whitten from the Bulldogs. 28 points in the finish, the Dogs winners over St Kilda. Sorry, Mick.
No, well, I'm just looking at the draw and thinking that neither of these sides on today's performance... Now, I know that Norton will come back in, and I know that Bruce... I think the best thing about tonight was that Bruce got through the game. He probably only had 2 or 3 possessions, but he got through the game, and I think that's so important for the Dogs to know that, 1, he's able to get through, 2, that when Norton comes back, and hopefully he does come back with that knee, that they'll have 2 spearheads and be able to take the pressure of each other, and that's what the Saints lacked tonight. They lacked a lot of things, but certainly with King... They need... Remember, he's just a medium to tall, so he doesn't take that pressure off. So the Saints really need to address the forward line instead of all being plonked on top of Ben King's head. But if I can just draw these things to you, in the next round, Dogs play Melbourne.
Yep.
The Saints, we know, go to Western Australia. The Saints play Hawthorn. The Cats play the Bulldogs.
That's in
Cats. The Cats play the Saints. In Geelong. The Dogs play Fremantle. Saints play Brisbane. So all these sides are well in front of them. The Dogs play the Giants. Saints play the Swans. And the Dogs play, if I can find Hawthorn. So potentially, of the 5 games left, you could probably see the Dogs maybe winning 1 or 2, and the Saints probably just the same. So that puts them level on 10 or 11 wins. Nowhere near enough to make the 8, and I think Richmond will probably falling, and I mean that. I don't think the Tigers are playing what I would consider great football. So on the ladder, the one that could sneak up on all of these, and they'll be looking at this, the mighty Suns.
I'm with you. So
they're playing the best footy. They're playing really encouraging, quite. They run well. They've got goal kickers. They thought they were going to be without him, but Charles goes well. Cresbolt's not look, he'll contest in the air, but who's to say that they're out of it?
So Richmond and the Gold Coast both have 6 games to come. They only play 2 top 8 teams each.
Yeah.
The Gold Coast Suns, their top 8 opponents, they play Brisbane at the Gabba, which is next round. It could be the biggest Q clash ever, the way that both teams are tracking at the moment. And the other one is Geelong, but it's at home. It's up at Carrara, so... that has some built-in advantages. And then Richmond's draw, they play Fremantle on Friday night. It's a weird game. It's fixtured here at Docklands, which obviously doesn't really suit the Tigers. That's one of their top 8 teams. And then the following week they play Brisbane at the MCG.
No guarantee at all.
Watching Richmond and Gold Coast last
week, yeah, you saw it live.
Yeah. And then also watching Richmond against the Cats a couple of weeks before that, and watching the Suns
a bit stiff, weren't they, against the Cats?
Absolutely. And the Suns in the games before that. Those two teams are playing far superior football than the 2 teams we watched tonight. As good as the Dogs were early, and again may have been Q in the rack. So Dogs fans, don't. I'm not trying to be too negative on you now, but just the second half of football and the scrappiness and the just disjointed. I haven't been fully sold on the Dogs a lot of the time. The Suns and Tigers are playing better football than these 2 teams. Now, if you get Norton back, and as you said, Bruce is up there. Ugle-Hagan is improving. Riley West is a huge plus. He continues to improve. Yeah, the Dogs can click, and their midfield is so good that they can get on a roll. So that's the one thing that would... Each of the times they've made a grand final or won the premiership, the Dogs have got on a roll.
Yeah, they have. The side I missed out on, which I'm just looking at this ladder, I'm not 100% sure what Port's draw looks like. They seem to me to be the weaker link of all those, but they still are, as at tonight, level with Gold Coast, and potentially could go level with the Western Bulldogs and the Saints and Richmond for that matter.
I can read it to you. So Melbourne and Alice Springs.
Tough.
Geelong back at home, Adelaide Oval.
Well, very tough.
Collingwood at the MCG.
Yeah, well, that just about does them.
Richmond at Adelaide Oval. Essendon and the Crows in a showdown to finish.
Well, while we're talking about this, so have you got Collingwood as locked? They're playing finals.
Yes, I have. Because I'm a great believer in belief gets you 10%, and they're not a great side at the moment, but that 10% that Craig McRae's given them has seen them over the line in 2 games that I would say last year they wouldn't have won. So until that's dented, I suspect that they will be good enough to win 3 or 4 games, which just simply puts them in front of these other sides.
So 5 of the Pies' 7 wins have been by less than 2 goals.
Yeah, belief.
3 of the 7 by less than a goal.
Yep. I know that.
And the flip side is, if you have a look at the Crows' victims this season, they are the Tigers, the Bulldogs and the Power. So they've had 5 wins, the Adelaide Crows. The Tigers, the Bulldogs and the Power, what those sides would give for an additional 4 premiership points right now. I mean, there's just massive stumbles, isn't there?
Yeah, and even if you just go back a little bit through history, if you sell your soul because you haven't got enough money, and we know that there's a few sides that just get loaded up with AFL funding, one has to sell, well, even be playing up in Alice Springs. That, you don't, as a coach, you don't do that out of the goodness of your heart, let me tell you. And the other thing is, too, I reckon Brett Ratton, if you said to him 10 times, he'd say the same thing about playing in Cairns against Port Adelaide, and they led until, I think, Gray kicked a point or a goal.
Yep.
Now, that's a win. That is a win. Now, we're not talking about 9-8, we're talking about 10-8 or 10-7. And it keeps them in front of those sides.
We've got another half an hour to pull this all apart on Grandstand AFL, but let's celebrate with the winners. Tim Hodges is in the Dogs' rooms.
Well, Corbin, I thought there might be just a pullback on crowds down here in the rooms with the COVID scares, with the 3 players who have COVID who were out of this game last night at selection. But it's absolutely stacked in here with people. So they're making some put masks on, some aren't. So it is, it's a weird spot at the moment where footy is, where we all are at, I guess. But the Dogs are a pretty happy bunch as they come in. Jack McRae is going to be the last person in the song, and here we go, the Bulldog song. The horns are back out again after the song. Bont leading the charge there. We put the request in for Josh Bruce, so great to see him. So good to see him back playing footy. He joined us about a month ago on Friday Night Footy on ABC Grandstand. He was fantastic, so hopefully I can bring you Josh Bruce sometime in the next few minutes.
That'll be great to catch up with Josh. Thanks, Hodgie. Looking forward to that, and I'll set you the task of trying to get to the bottom of the horn celebration as well. So the only thing I can think of is the Texas Longhorns, who are famous college football team, obviously from Texas, where they're orange and white, but their mascot sort of hook 'em horns, and they always do the horn celebration.
And that's what Tim Taranto does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his dad lives in Texas.
There you go.
So he has a close sort of affinity with them. But, so his celebration is that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's not peak college football season in America right now
No.
for the Dogs to be doing it.
And Mason Redmond does it because he calls himself the Red Dog.
He does.
So that's why he does it. But to have Bontempelli.
Yeah. And
Bontempelli do that.
And Adam Trelaw's horns were almost on top of he put his hand on top of his head when he did it as well. Which
Looked a bit more Easter Bunny-like.
Yeah, it was a little unusual, but it was a common theme, wasn't it, throughout the night of the Dog celebration. So 28-point win. They're up in a grand final rematch next Saturday night. So probably doesn't have the spice around it as what the first meeting did when we were talking about the song Freed from Desire and everything else, which led into that Wednesday night game to open the season way back in, seems like another life ago, doesn't it, way back in round one, but they'll meet again, last year's grand finalists next Saturday night.
Can I say, though, Luke Beveridge has proven one of his big strengths is motivating and galvanising a group to rise together at the right time.
Correct.
Whether it's the horn celebration or something they've been doing, I don't know if it's referring to that. I could be grasping at straws there. But you get a win against Melbourne after last year, and you just get on that little roll, and you start believing as a group. And Josh Bruce is back now in that forward line with Norton, and it all starts working a little bit together. The Dogs can get rolling. That midfield and some of their class is so good. They can really get rolling despite their tough draw.
Western Bulldogs win by 28 points. Back into the winners' rooms. Tim Hodges.
I got Josh Bruce, who's been good enough to join me as he takes his boots off. So good to see him back playing footy. I can't believe my first question is going to be about the horn celebration, but tell us, what the hell is it about?
It's just one of Bevo's famous pre-game speeches that he has, and he gets the themes going and whatnot, and it was about the Cape Buffalo from Africa, and essentially the Lions come for them, and they actually have a win-loss record against the Lions in the wild, and tend to fight them back and tend to kill the Lions. So it was just a theme that Bevo did, and we really ran with it tonight. So
the instructions were every goal, every chance to celebrate, do it?
Not necessarily.
Even the Bont was getting in, and even after the song he did it.
Yeah, the Bont got in. Yeah, no, it's just we just wanted to really build the energy today and build the spirit after a couple of tough weeks for the boys. It's just one of those little things that you can have a laugh and you can have a smile, and it really builds that camaraderie.
Enough on that. How about you? How good was it to be back out there? It was awesome to see you back playing senior footy, getting to sing the song afterwards. Wasn't one of your best games ever, but it's great to see you back playing footy.
Yeah, so rusty, unbelievably rusty. But yeah, I would have ran really well. Felt like I was running really powerfully, which was the main thing, and got through unscathed. And the rest of it will come, and the forward line stuff will come. And I was just glad to be part of a winning team and a functioning team. And just so grateful to be back playing the game I love.
It's awesome. I'll send you upstairs. We've got Cameron Ling and Mick Malthouse. It's awesome to have Josh Bruce join us after the game.
Josh, congratulations on the hard work to get back. And you're back a little bit early, I think. Is that fair to say? Was this about...
Yeah, it's just 11 months.
Right.
So I had a couple of setbacks.
With hamstring, was it?
Yeah, hamstring. I had another surgery in my knee too when I was just about to come back. So I've had a few setbacks along the way. It definitely hasn't been smooth sailing, but I don't think they ever are.
And is Aaron on the way back as well? Are we looking to see him next week?
Yeah. He's just got he just had COVID this week, so but it gives him a chance to. He's been pretty banged up this year with the shouldering the load, so it'll give him a good chance to have a rest, and hopefully the three of us can have a tilt at Melbourne next week.
And how long, since you've been back on the training track, how much work have you been able to do with him on training, with setups it just looks like without you down there, he's been the lone jumping player, and it's easy for backline players then to sort of double team him and that sort of stuff. Now they have to be spread with you two guys. So what sort of work have you been doing on the training track?
I haven't been able to do too much with him because, I've been running laps pretty much. So I've only trained with the group maybe 3 times, since I've been back. So, it was sort of rushed in the end, and I think you could tell, sort of the way I played tonight, the timing was a little bit off and whatnot. So that's just going to take a bit of time. But, I think just because Aaron's so dynamic and he draws such a crowd, and because he catches the eye, our mids just love kicking it to him, and why not? But I think you saw tonight that the forward line can function really well when we've got a spread of goal kickers, and hopefully we can take the load off Naughty next week.
So when you say rush, can you just go through that? You mean rush back into the team? Did they think that you needed more in the reserves, or is it?
Rushed in terms of just because I had that second surgery and a hamstring strain. I haven't been able to get the continuity of main training with the group. The main session where you get the contact and you get the contested marking and the forward play. It's just been pretty much just building fitness and making sure my knees are right. So.
And that was ticked off okay. So all the strength is back and the size is back. Oh, that's good. Well, Ringy's got something for you.
No, well done, Josh. Good to see you back out there playing and on the win tonight. Can you talk us through? So it's nice and easy sitting up here in the commentary box, by the way, when the game's going on. It's a lot harder out there, and when the game is basically done and dusted and decided at half-time, what's the second half like? Because it looked scrappy. It looked like you guys weren't exactly firing like you were in the first half. What's that like when things aren't quite acting perfectly, but the game's already won? Can you talk us through what was happening on the field?
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating, especially because we know how important percentage is going to be towards the back half of the year with the tightness of the 8. So, it was pretty frustrating there, and we just felt like we weren't cohesive on defence, weren't cohesive on offence, and it just sort of felt like we were a bit cooked. So I think we just needed to chill out a little bit with the ball, take our time with the ball and go through our gears a bit more rather than just going helter-skelter. And we ended up just giving the ball back to them, and they got good ball users and they flooded sort of back with their mids, and they played a 7th for the second half. So they were able to slingshot forward from there. And it was super frustrating, even though you know that the game's won, and it leaves a sour taste in your mouth a little bit. And I'm sure Bevo will have a bit to say about it.
Well, that's it. And as a coach, and I suppose as a senior playing group as well, you hold yourself to certain standards. When you have a really positive first half, and now you're looking at launching into next week against the reigning premiers and a team that you'd love to take down, are you still able to grasp onto those positives of the first half, or is it more you're critical of not finishing the game as well as you would have liked?
I think based on our recent form, we'll really celebrate the good stuff, but I reckon it's a good chance to keep the group on edge. So, if we had had a shellacking tonight, there'd be a chance to be a little bit of complacency, but I guess you see that if you come off the boil even 5%, that teams can cut you up, which is what we saw in the second half, especially in the last quarter.
And the game was really won and set up a little bit by the turnovers you created, but by the middle of the ground, Bontempelli and Libber and Jack McRae and these types of players dominated the clearances in the contest. That must be one that on the review on Monday, you'll put a big circle around and say, that's us at our very best. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was Champagne Bont, wasn't it? That was one of his best games for the year, clearly. And, we know what a calibre of player he is. So he led from the front and everyone else jumped on board. And it was obviously just a pleasing win. So.
Hey, Josh, it's Kelly upstairs. Congratulations. So good to see you back. You look like in that last minute or so you're trying to get on the end of one and bang through a goal. Hey, Jamara Ugle-Hagan, you've seen him up close. Obviously a top draft pick. He's got plenty of criticism in his short career. He was very lively tonight. He looks like a confidence player, was able to get the first on the board. Tell us a little bit about him and your interactions with him and, obviously playing alongside him.
Yeah, obviously, coming with that high pressure and high draft pick as a key forward, I've been through that before at the Saints with Paddy McCartan coming in. So I knew the external pressure that he was going to be under. So I've just tried my best to just shelter him and put him under the wing a little bit with me and Nordy and just try and teach him the basics of, the hard work and the extras and what you need to do to make it at the level. And he's really come a long way in the last 12 months with that. I think in his first year, he'd be willing to admit that he probably was getting frustrated that he wasn't playing and thought he should be playing. But looking back now, he realises he wasn't at the level. And his attitude's first class in terms of the work that he's doing. And I think you saw glimpses of the talent that he's got, not only in the air but at the ground. And I think a lot of young key forwards are confidence players, and a lot of key forwards are confidence players, in general. So hopefully we can see him really blossom in the next 5 games or so.
And just back on the Cape Buffalo against the Lions, was it a theme just this week? Because Luke Beveridge was very pointed in his post-match press conference last week, almost putting it on the players about your motivation after a grand final appearance last year. Was this just a theme for the week, or is it something that's flowed through the season?
Nah, just a theme for the week. Yeah, he's famous for his little ones, and I think the acid was put on us, and I think we responded in the best way possible, which was to come out and have the first half that we did.
Josh, appreciate your time. Well done on the return and the victory.
Can I just ask, Corbin, you're playing with your knee. Is it all? Does it feel? I don't know. Is it 100%? Will it ever be 100% again? Or
it's just habit. Yeah, I'm just constantly feeling it. I shouldn't play with it, but yeah, it's cherry ripe, 100%. So
thanks for your time.
Josh Bruce in the Victoria's Dogs rooms. Thanks to Josh. Great to have him with us after his return game. I was intrigued by so many things of that interview. He's an interesting guy, isn't he, Josh Bruce? When you speak to him, you can tell he's very considered and thinks about the questions and gives some good responses.
How good are these two in the box? I mean, Mick Moldhouse said before half-time, Saints will get 2 or 3 before half-time, and they did. And Lingy said just before we interviewed Josh Bruce, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a Luke Beveridge theme of the week.
We found out, what is it, the Buffalo?
The Cape Buffalo and the Lions.
Cape Buffalo.
From
is he referring to, it's not a documentary, it's actually real life.
The Cape Buffalo is one of the big 5.
Yeah.
There's the big 5, and everyone forgets that they name the lion and they name the elephant and the... What's the Cape Buffalo is the 3rd? What would be the 4th? I suppose the rhino is certainly one of them. And the 5th is it the leopard, or I think it's a leopard. So the Cape Buffalo is the one that sort of sneaks out the back, and they go, "Oh, you sure it's one of the big 5?" Yes, it is, because they are super dependent on each other to support one another.
Well, a lot of the reasons you gave for it. So essentially saying they usually attack the lion. But then they get attacked by the Lions, but not only that, they turn the table and then they go after the Lions themselves.
Yeah. Which would be Luke Beveridge saying that everybody in the football world, the footy landscape, is coming at them, at the Bulldogs, saying it's a failure of a year and everything like that. Let's not just fight them off, but turn the tables on them.
You're right, Mick. The big 5. Lion, leopard, rhino, elephant, and the Cape Buffalo. Ever use the Cape Buffalo theme?
No, I've used the gazelle and the lion. If you wake up in the morning, it's an old one from the late and great Tommy Hafey. If you in the morning, if the gazelle wakes up in the morning and doesn't run faster than the cheetah, guess what? It's Tucker, and so it has to run faster to survive. And if the cheetah can get a bit of a run on and can get up there quicker, guess what? It's got Tucker. So
I've got my pep talk for next Tuesday night for the under 7s, the under 7 Chargers.
Just tell them that as a gazelle, they've only got to run faster than the other slowest gazelle.
That's it.
That one will get picked up.
That's right.
So start small with them, Cal.
Yeah. Run together, that's right, but run quicker than the one next to you.
The Western Bulldogs win by 28 points over St Kilda in front of, what was in the end, Cal, you'll bang on here, 25,981. Your guesstimate was around 25,000. It was 25,000 and change. So the Dogs get themselves to 9th spot. They're outside the 8 on percentage. They could very well be a game and percentage outside of the 8 by the end of the weekend. They got a tough run home. Just quickly, the Dogs in a nutshell this year. So we're awake to this very early in the season. Sides that suffer heavy grand final defeats since 2000 and so I'm talking 50 plus, none of them have come back to win a final the next year. I think there's been 7, and only 2 of them have ever made the finals, and one went out in straight sets, the other one lost an elimination final. The other 4 didn't ever make it. The Dogs look like they're going to join that group unless they can make something happen in the last 5 weeks of the season. They win tonight and give themselves, obviously, a chance. But how much is the grand final loss? And I know it seems like an obsession for people like me and the media and the average sports guy comment. How much do you think the grand final loss is a contributing factor as to what we've seen from this Dogs team that I'm sure would have had their sights set on top 2, top 4?
Well, it's a very interesting one. If you hadn't have told me those stats from 2000, I probably wouldn't have even taken into consideration. I don't think the grand final has a great bearing if you've lost. I think it has a bearing if you've won after a long time, because I think the hunger dissipates marginally, and that's enough to lose games.
Can I float a possible response to that is, if you get smacked in a granny like that, you weren't necessarily that good a team to start with. You got on a roll and you clearly played some really good football to get there, but you weren't truly a really good team in the first place to get smacked in a granny. Therefore, without that roll on and whatever you'd captured, that lightning in a bottle that you'd captured for that brief period, the following year, back to the grind of it, you can't rise to those heights again. Whereas the teams that get close in the grand final are usually a really good team as well and are right there, whips are cracking at the finish line, they'll back up and use it and spare it because they were good in the first place. Is that...
Yeah, I wonder particularly with the Dogs, and I know, Mick, I think you and I even see this differently. I think they went through such hell to even make it. They had to play in a dog leg around the country. It was an unusual lead-up. Yeah. But I just look at the Dogs and I think, that must be so heartbreaking that they're a quarter and a half away from having a parade, and then not only do they lose, they get completely humiliated in the end. It's a wide margin in the finish. I wonder what sort of mental scarring that would have on a group to think, now we've got to start the climb again, up the mountain all over again.
But it happened to a lot of them in 2016, 2017, didn't it? And the motivation just wasn't there, and the exhaustion, Amit Baines told us at the end of last season. And then is the motivation there again?
I think they're 2 very separate cases of motivation. I think after 2016, they partied just for too long. And
everyone did at the club. Even the committee. They said the committee was still partying in February. Well,
and you can't blame them because it was so special, that one. But as a playing group, I reckon they were still partying long into the next season. They would say they're not celebrating the grand final, but they were partying like they just won a granny.
Are we seeing that with Melbourne, you reckon, Lingy? Because it's 64, it's 1964, their last premiership, before last year. I know they won the first 7 games and they're going to be unbeaten. Then they lost that 3 in a row, come back 1-1, got smashed by Geelong last week. Was it last week? Seems such a long time ago. But they've been found out a little bit in regard to the bottom half of their list, and Gawn's clearly got an ankle. So I'm wondering whether they've lost. You don't have to lose. I know this is a personal experience. 1980, a lot of us hadn't played in a grand final, and I was desperate. We went 4th, but we got up and won the premiership. The next year, not only did we have the same side, didn't lose any players, we recruited Morris Rioli. So technically speaking, we should have been that much better. We finished outside the 4. There was only 4 in those days. Outside the 4. The following year, back on top. Now that was, to me, on analysing it, and I'm trying to analyse as a coach more than a player, lack of hunger. It was just, we were 0.5% off. You do that by every player, that's you're almost 10% off. And I reckon collectively we were all 10% off. The following year, regained that hunger back on top. So I think that mentally it determines more than physically, more than anything else on this earth determines where you end up.
So you think it's absolutely at play here in a roundabout way?
In a roundabout way, it's the whole thing of... and also, I think structurally they're very, very poor at both ends of the ground.
So that's the other thing. I mean, their underbelly's been exposed a bit, hasn't it? That they clearly have more issues than just, hey, we're front up next year and we'll try harder and we'll be better. That clearly they need to address some areas.
They've never finished top 4 under Luke Beveridge.
Wow.
Pretty remarkable for a team that was...
He's played up 2 grand finals.
Yeah,
it is.
Yep. What about the Saints? Can I ask the awkward question, which is...
I'll get you to do that in just a moment. First, let's get the scene setter from the St Kilda Reds. Tim Hodges is there. Hodgie.
I was waiting for Kelly's question, actually.
That's a good one, Tim.
We knew coming to the footy tonight there'd be a real contrast between the winning rooms and the losing rooms, and couldn't be more obvious here in the Saints. The Dogs was rocking down there, and there's three of us in the St Kilda rooms, Craig, myself and the media manager, and the media manager said there is no chance of a player coming out before 11 o'clock. So everyone is locked in the coach's room. It's including board members, it's including Jaron Geary, who retired yesterday. So, it would be. I think this loss will go down really badly. I guess on top of the loss, which is the big news, and just how poor the Saints were for certainly the first three quarters, it's the injury to Paddy Ryder. So I can tell you that he came off and he thought he'd done the Achilles again. That's why they took him straight down to the rooms. That's when the media manager alerted us that it was Achilles soreness at a minimum, but they think he's done the calf as well on top of that. So that might be Paddy Ryder done for the year for the Saints. So a dirty night just gets so much worse. And then you think of the emotional toll on Brett Ratton. Today was the opening to the TAC safety round across Victoria, and Brett Ratton has been the face and the ambassador for that. He's spoken a number of times this week about and it's always emotional for him, talking about Cooper, his son, who tragically died in a car accident many years ago. And then the emotional strain of tonight on him must be just enormous after a difficult week. So, yeah, that's not much fun down here right now in the St Kilda rooms.
Am I drawing a long bow here? There was so much speculation surrounding the future of Brett Ratton and obviously Alistair Clarkson and his desire to return to coaching, and would it be a good fit with St Kilda, but then the relationship obviously that they've had at Hawthorn, where Alistair Clarkson was the senior coach and Brett Ratton was his assistant. Since he's re-signed, which they tried to do very quickly and quietly to put an end to this constant speculation that was growing and growing, the Saints have conceded 6 goals in a row and thrashed by Fremantle by 41 points. They conceded the first 7 goals here tonight and lost by 28 points. Can players react or sense that, or is there any link here whatsoever? Because it feels like 2 weeks ago against Carlton, they were fighting for their lives. They were playing football like it was life and death. And in the last 2 weeks, you're seeing a team that just strolls through games and couldn't lay a tackle if they had to.
Well, if the answer to your question is yes, that is, then they are mentally weak to the extreme. Because I would have thought once a coach is backed in and he's going to be your coach for the next couple of years, that puts even more assurance in, well, that's the guy I'm playing for, and I'd want to get on board with everything he's doing and let's make the finals together. Not the uncertainty of, oh, well, geez, if they bring in a new coach, am I even going to be here? And you start doubting yourself. I would have thought it'd be more a reassurance of, this is the path we're on, you'd want to be on it. I couldn't imagine it being the reason why, but...
Have they pulled the trigger too early, St Kilda?
It's an interesting question. We both of us spoke today about technique and game structure and play, and when the Saints are playing good football, you think Sinclair, Webster, these blokes, Wilkie running out of the back line, quick play on, get the ball in. We know Ryder won't play now probably for a few weeks, but the game style worried Geelong, worried Carlton. And what we've seen in the last couple of weeks has been stagnation. And that, to me, is who control... The senior coach, in my book, has to lay down the game style for the assistant coaches to develop what you want. Now, if they're developing their own program, this is what we're going to do out of our back line, we'll go around it, and it'll blend in with the centre line, and it'll eventually blend into the forward line. You've got too many tails wagging the dog. You've got to have the one dog set the agenda, and the other coaches come in and get it. Today we just saw a ringy rosy of 140 odd marks. Lingy tells me, that is just bizarre. And most of them would have been, 80 of them would have been across from this centre line back to the goal square, crisscross. All you watch the Dogs do was just drift across, drift back, drift across. And poor King, Ben King's up there, calling of the football, as was Membry, and never got used. So
158 marks.
150, that is just diabolical.
They were disorganised and disjointed.
That's right.
But it's
top to bottom tonight, Cal.
not acceptable.
No, it's not acceptable.
Not acceptable.
But worse than that,
how can the players do that 2 weeks after a coach resigns?
And worse than that, though, that's game structure. There is no excuse for having such a low number of contested possessions nor tackles. That is totally over the shoulders and the top of the head, and the desire to do it. That's why I say about Ben Long, you're going to get an effort by Ben. And I was surprised that Steele